broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is
The London Assembly is the voice of London, composed of 25 members elected at the same time as the Mayor in order to hold him to account, scrutinise his policies and investigate matters of importance to Londoners. Can I welcome members, officers and the public here in the gallery and watching on the webcast. This is a Mayor's Question Time meeting of the Assembly, which means that all members are invited to attend and ask questions of the Mayor. In case of an emergency and any need to exit the buildings, guests seated in the gallery should follow the security staff and Assembly members should follow the meeting clerk. Members are reminded that any electronic devices should not be placed in front of the microphones, which must be turned on to speak and turned off once finished. Can I now ask the clerk to confirm any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. No apologies for absence today.
Thank you. Before we begin proceedings today, can we take a moment to send our heartfelt condolences to the friends and family of Sergei Krayev, the London bus driver who died after he was attacked on Battersea Bridge. Our last Mayor's Question Time concluded the 2025-26 Assembly year and was followed by a pre-election period ahead of the local elections. In the time preceding and following the pre-election period, the London Assembly continued to work for Londoners through its committee work. The Health Committee wrote to the Met Commissioner and the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, calling for action to tackle rising violence against health workers. The committee also wrote to the Mayor and the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, urging them to consider how they can support boroughs who have low vaccination rates. The Housing Committee published a report after investigating the practice of social housing allocations amongst London boroughs. And in our final 25th anniversary podcast, Assembly member Lord Duval, the previous chair, spoke with former BBC London News political editor Tim Donovan about the ups and downs of documenting 3 mayoral terms and the Assembly. This week, the Police and Crime Committee held a question and answer session with the Met and MOPAC, and the GLA Oversight Committee received an update on the GLA's savings and efficiency programmes and scrutinised how London is preparing for the major risks the city faces. Can I ask, we now come to declarations of interest, can I ask Assembly to note the interest set out in item 2, and do Assembly members have any other disclosable pecuniary interests which relate to the items on today's agenda for today's on the agenda for today's meeting, or any other relevant interests, including any declarations relating to gifts and hospitality which are not reflected on the authority's register of gifts and hospitality? Assembly member Moema.
Thank you, Chair. It's come to light recently that Assembly member Polanski has failed to pay his council tax while he's voted on Londoners' budget, and the GLA precept.
Assembly
Is he going to
member
apologise today?
Moema, it's up for each individual member to make their own declarations and not for other members to advise them otherwise.
I'm just asking through you, Chair, if he's going to apologise and explain himself.
That is up to the Assembly member. Are there any other apologies, any other declarations? No. Can I ask the Assembly formally? Can I ask the Assembly formally to receive the Mayor's report covering the period from the 13th of March to the 7th of May 2026? And the Mayor will now provide... Do I have to take an assent? Somebody's got a nod on that one. Thank you very much, sir. You've rescued me, Assembly Member Roberts. The Mayor will now provide an oral update of up to 5 minutes in length on matters occurring since the publication of his report. Mr. Mayor.
Well, good morning, everyone. There's a different person in the chair seat today, so welcome back, Assembly Member Boff as chair, and to Assembly Member Lord Duval. Thank you for trying your best to bring order to the occasional chaos over the last year. Chair, I've got to start by congratulating Arsenal on winning the Premier League. This week. As the Mayor of London, I've got to say that a London club winning for the first time in almost a decade is a genuinely historic moment. So well done to Mikel Arteta and to his team. Let's hope they can do the double and bring the Champions League trophy back to London too. Just in case any Crystal Palace fans happen to be watching, allow me to also wish them the best of luck in the Conference League final next week. And for Spurs and West Ham, I'm saying nothing.
Well, one might cost you £2 million.
Chair, this month marks a decade since Londoners first elected me to be their mayor. In that time, I'm proud to say we've made the greatest city on earth even greater. From the world's biggest clean air zone, making the air we breathe drastically cleaner than it was 10 years ago, to delivering over 120 million free nutritious school meals in our state primary schools. We've achieved a phenomenal amount in the last 10 years, but there's always more to do. And looking ahead, I'm more motivated than ever by my mission to build a fairer, greener, safer and more prosperous London for everyone. Two other things I would have raised in my opening I dealt with later on this morning, so I'm not going to deal with them here, but I've been asked to give one oral update with your permission, Chair. And that's from Member Caroline Russell. The Met and TfL have agreed a new special services agreement providing enhanced roads and transport policing. In the autumn of 2024, the Met announced it would stop resourcing red route enforcement, which doesn't align with the new Met for London priorities. The Met considers that approximately 60 PCSOs who had been delivering red route enforcement should be subject to the transfer of undertakings protective employment, 2P, over to the new provider, Marston's, who believe 2P doesn't apply. I'm aware this issue has been raised by the Public and Commercial Services Union, PCS, and that there is currently no agreement on the transfer between the Met and Marston's. I have enormous sympathy for the PCSOs and the impact this process is continuing to have on them and their families, and I want this to be resolved as soon as possible. I can confirm to the Assembly that TfL and Marston's agreed yesterday to amend the service commencement date, meaning if 2P were to apply, the transfer arrangements would take place on the 8th of June rather than 26th of May. My Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime has written to the Deputy Commissioner to seek assurances on this issue and to check that all redeployment options have been considered by the Met. Ultimately, the Met is responsible for this operational decision, and we're awaiting their substantive response, and I hope this difficult issue is resolved swiftly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, obviously, this 2-week delay to the 2P deadline brings a small amount of relief to 60 workers who have been living with incredible uncertainty and have been really worried that they potentially won't have a job after this weekend. So that 2-week delay is a help. It gives time to actually move things on and work things out, but it doesn't make up for the fact that those teams have been absolutely in distress. They have been. I've heard about meetings where I heard trembling voices, genuine fear, witnessed tears. People have told Assembly members that they've got bills and mortgages to pay. They're bringing up young children, and they are facing an unbelievable degree of uncertainty. Now, part of that uncertainty has come about because Marston's do not believe that 2P applies, because they've done their due diligence and they've actually found that, as these PCSOs have been telling us, that that people were employed back in 2007, some of them, to work as PCSOs to identify local issues, create safer streets. They've been saying that their ticketing duties just take up 30 minutes of their day. 90% of their times is actually about crime reduction and high visibility patrolling. So I also am grateful to hear that you are talking with the Met about redeployment options. But I think we need to go back to PCC yesterday, where Assembly members Gareth Roberts and also Assembly member Emma Best were in discussion with the Met because they were. Sorry, just find the right piece of paper. The Deputy Commissioner said, we're not in a redeployment situation, we're in a transfer 2P situation. He then went on and said that if people have the skills, they can be recruited to some of the opportunities that are available. And I just hope that you can, this is all within the GLA family. This is TfL, it's MOPAC. And I realise it's not operational, and you can't tell the Met what to do, but it is really worrying that these workers have been A, subjected to so much uncertainty, and B, that they're not being that it appears they're not able to redeploy into PCSO roles when there are so many new PCSO roles being created because of the recent attacks in London.
Can I thank the member for raising this issue? It's not the first time she's raised it, and thank other members who've raised it as well, and thank PCSS for raising this as well. Look, it's not good enough. The Met Police Service, TfL and Marston's have got to resolve this. I suspect, from what we've heard today in at PCC, there may well be litigation and court proceedings, which is unfortunate. I've shared with the Assembly the fact that the Deputy Mayor has written officially to the Met Police Service along the lines that members refer to. I'll make sure the Assembly are kept abreast of developments, because some of them have got contacts with the PCOs. This needs to be resolved, but just think about, and I know the members said this, the impact this is having on the PCSOs and their families. It's not good enough.
Well, I hope, yes, I hope you will keep pressing on that, because it does feel that these people have been left to fall between the cracks of a disagreement between different parts of the GLA family, and that's really not good enough. It's not good enough in, these are public sector organisations. We really should be standing up for everyone's workers' rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Assembly Member Roberts, please.
Thank you. And if I may also, in addition to Assembly Member Russell's point, Lord Duval, Assembly Member Lord Duval, was very vocal on this point as well yesterday. Given that we are now seeing the creation of the community protection team, specifically targeting Jewish communities, and given that we are which will be 100 members strong and possibly growing, and given that we are facing a real issue in recruitment, is this the right time to be laying off established members of the policing team? And would you step in to make sure that this is longer than just an additional fortnight? 3 months would give time for the Metropolitan Police Commissioner to really look at this 360 and come up with a better solution.
I think the Deputy Commissioner made the point yesterday, and previous colleagues from that police service have made the point, and I'm rehearsing the points they've made publicly, so is that a view was taken that the PCSOs who enforce the TLRN were best suited to be transferred over because of the roles they have. The member raised at the last Mayor's question time the evidence he'd heard from the individual PCSOs. That was related to that police service who need to, when it comes to redeployment within current staff, consider the skill sets colleagues have. In relation to the 350 strong team in northwest London, again, that'd be a combination of experts within the Met Police Service family, but also new recruits as well. Clearly, it's open to the 60 PCSOs to apply for any vacancy that comes up in the Met Police Service, and I would hope there'd be a huge advantage. What the Met Police Service currently aren't able to do is to redeploy these 60, which is the obvious thing the member referred to last time, bearing in mind there are vacancies north of 60 in the Met Police Service. So I will make sure that the Assembly are kept abreast of developments, but also, of course, make sure the PCSOs who are directly affected are also kept abreast of developments as well.
Thank you. I won't press it further because I'm short on time, but we have been informed by the PCSOs that they've been told they can't apply for other jobs or for redeployment. So, but I will leave that there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We now move to the questions on the priority order paper. Each group is allocated an amount of time to ask their questions that is proportionate to their size on the Assembly. The first question is titled Attacks on Jewish Londoners from Assembly Member Bakari.
Can I thank the member for her question? Being the mayor of the city that is home to the largest Jewish community in our country is a privilege and a responsibility to take extremely seriously. I'm now appalled by the recent spate of anti-Semitic arson attacks and the stabbing of Shaloi May Rand and Moshe Shine in Golders Green was horrific and concerning for all of us, but especially Jewish Londoners and those across the country who are facing an extraordinary combination of threats and are scared and angry also. No community should be forced to live this way. Following the incidents, I visited Golders Green. I got the opportunity to thank police officers for their work and meet with the Jewish community. I also visited Finchley Reform Synagogue to stand alongside Jewish Londoners following the arson attack. I've also recently sat down and spoken with Hatzolah ambulance crews and volunteers. The Met have rightly responded to these attacks by mobilising the largest community-based protective security initiative seen in the capital for many years. Up to 350 officers have been deployed daily to affected areas alongside additional armed vehicle response and increased counter-terrorism patrols. I'm pleased we've been able to work with the government to provide an additional £80 million to the Met, which will fund a new dedicated community protection team of 100 extra officers to mitigate this extraordinary risk. This team brings together neighbourhood policing with specialist officers providing a more visible, intelligence-led and coordinated presence focused on protecting Jewish communities across London. The Met have also moved quickly to investigate the arson attacks and have made swift arrests which have resulted in court action. Whilst a strong start is not enough. We must replace this short-term surge with a reliable and sustained model. The Met Commissioner and I attended a COBRA meeting chaired by the Prime Minister, and we also delivered a detailed proposal to the government and look forward to their response. But the challenge of anti-Semitism cannot be tackled by policing alone. As a city and as a society, we need to confront the rising tide of anti-Semitism. That means being tough and uncompromising with anti-Semites, but also tackling the root causes of the problem through education and prevention. Over the last 6 consecutive years, tens of thousands of Londoners have participated in projects countering anti-Semitism through my Shared Endeavour Fund. I'll continue to invest record amounts in organisations that run programmes to prevent radicalisation, challenge extremism, combat anti-Semitism and bring communities together.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I want to first express my solidarity with the Jewish Londoners and my sincerest gratitude to the police and the London Fire Brigade and all the emergency workers who responded with courage to the recent attacks. The extra 18 million government funding that you referred to for the Met to respond to this threat is welcome, but yesterday we heard from the Deputy Commissioner that millions have already been spent in the last 6 or 7 weeks alone. Do you know how much of that 18 million pounds has been committed, and how long will the remaining funding last at the current operational levels?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the Commissioner and I wrote to the Home Secretary asking for £35 million per year for an initial 3-year period. This would fund a team of 300 officers to work to counter the current extraordinary risk and threat. The funding we've got from the government, which we're grateful for, £18 million, covers a combination of officers who have been doing overtime, doing additional shifts, thousands of additional shifts, extractions and so forth. That funding will not cover the community hub we want to see in that part of London, and the additional steps the Commissioner's advised we should have a bigger investigation team, counter-terror presence and so forth. So we'll continue to work with the government to get the additional resources, and any support that the Assembly can give will be much appreciated.
Okay, so I mean, as you say, I mean, 100 officers are being abstracted from duties elsewhere on an ad hoc basis to the new community protection team focused on the Jewish communities. But the Deputy Commissioner was clear that the Met needs 300 officers to meet the level of threat. So what exactly have you been asking the government in terms of additional funding? And have you only requested additional funding for the Met, or does your proposal also include the London Fire Brigade?
So, as I just said in answer to my previous question, we've been asking for £35 million over a 3-year period. There's been no additional request at the moment from the London Fire Brigade. And the work that we've explained to the government we think is needed here is not simply the officers, which the member referred to, a team of 300 officers. It's expanding the investigation team so investigations can move much quicker. But it's also as part of the police team to have the specialism we need. So armed response teams, counter-terror teams, neighbourhood policing being expanded in northwest London, but also a physical community hub. There is already a great community hub. Senator McClark and I visited it recently, but we need a physical community hub in the heart of Golders Green, where Jewish Londoners are feeling frightened, and their presence would reassure them, but also deter anti-Semites from doing bad things.
So the issue at the moment is, though, the delay of funding is going to impact Jewish Londoners who are dependent on an emergency model at the moment, and it's not fair on the Jewish community. It's not fair on the police officers who are being stretched. If the government does not provide certain urgently, money for you, will you step in as the Mayor and find the money needed to guarantee longer-term funding for these officers so that the Met can dial up recruitment immediately, because we just can't waste any more time?
I think this was an issue raised with the Deputy Commissioner yesterday. He responded in a way that I respond, which is just waiting to see what happens with the government in terms of the lobbying we're doing. The Commissioner has been quite clear in relation to the need for this certainty, and he's had conversations with the government, and we're hopeful we'll get some good news shortly.
So you're hopeful, but will you step in, yes or no?
I'm going to answer a hypothetical, Chair.
Assembly Member Clark, please.
Yes, Chair, you'll see that I moved up my question. So I was hoping we could have a full answer from the Mayor to the question, to my initial question about anti-Semitic attacks.
Mr. Mayor, do you have that answer?
Thank you, Chair. I'm angry and appalled by the recent spate of anti-Semitic arson attacks. I know that all decent Londoners will stand strong with London's Jewish community. This extraordinary threat needs extraordinary action to tackle it. I've been clear that Jewish Londoners need to see action, not words. I'm pleased that the response by the Met and London Fire Brigade has been rapid, comprehensive and commendable. And it was good to be able to visit Golders Green with the member and thank the Met for their heroic work. The Met have responded to these attacks by mobilising the largest community-based protective security initiative seen in the capital for many years. Up to 350 officers have been deployed daily to affected areas alongside additional armed vehicle response, behavioural detection specialists and increased counter-terrorism patrols. The government's very welcome announcement of £25 million in one-off funding to support protective policing includes the decision to ring-fence £18 million for the Met. This will cover some of the retrospective costs already incurred, but most importantly, has allowed the Met to create a new dedicated community protection team. This team of 100 officers will combine neighbourhood officers with dedicated specialist protection teams to provide a more visible presence focused on protecting targeted communities. I'm pleased to say that the surge in police resources is already having a positive effect. Several people have been arrested, charged, and some already brought before a court. However, this is only the beginning. We need a more sustainable model rather than relying on short-term surges. The Commission and I have set out a detailed proposal to the Government for a new long-term approach. I look forward to their response. At the same time, the London Fire Brigade have stepped up, as they always do, often being first responders and playing a vital role in suppressing fires. Their forensic teams have also worked closely with the Met to establish the causes of fires and gather evidence. Together, the Met and the London Fire Brigade have stepped up to support London's Jewish community, and I know they'll continue to do everything they can to keep Londoners safe.
Thank you for that. And I also want to echo your warm words to the LFB and the police, who absolutely acted heroically, not just at the time of those instances, but through ongoing community assurance. I know I'm in several meetings with them, with members of the community, and the work hasn't stopped. And I would expect nothing less, but I do want to commend their work on that. What are you doing to promote good community relationships in our city?
So it's really important that we do work to not just to deal with the consequences of anti-Semitism, but to try and prevent it happening in the first place, to address the issue of radicalisation. And so for some years now, we've been funding a number of projects across our country, backed up with a shared endeavour fund of £15 million over a number of years. And we're funding community groups who go into, for example, schools, communities, to educate young people, counter anti-Semitism work. So projects like those run by Maccabi GB, Stand Up, Anne Frank Trust UK, Education Against Discrimination, and I could go on. I've been funded to go into places across London. They've taken through their programme tens of thousands of Londoners. We also evaluate the attitudes people have before being on these sessions and afterwards. And she'll be pleased to know that this work has led to, a change in attitudes. We've clearly got to reach more people who have got views that are anti-Semitic and are full of prejudice. Separately, we fund events in Trafalgar Square to create a sense of cohesion, to celebrate each other's festivals. This isn't an act of domination for the avoidance of doubt. This is an act of sharing all the things we have in common that unite us rather than divide us. And we've also got a programme in partnership with National Lottery around Loved and Wanted, funding community spaces across London to give a space for people to have discussions, some maybe on difficult issues, and build social bridges between different parts of our diverse communities.
Yeah, it's really important. And I know in my role as an Assembly member, it's brilliant to celebrate so many different festivals with so many different faiths, both on Trafalgar Square, but also in the communities I serve. What role do you think politicians, including Assembly members, play in building trust in our emergency services, but also building up community cohesion?
Well, your leaders. I mean, you've each got a mandate. All 25 of you. You're respected. You represent a cross-section of political views. You may disagree on individual policies, but you all agree that this is a great city. You want it to be better. It's not perfect. But also, I think we should all recognise that we can affect the morale, positive or negative, of public servants, particularly those directly connected with us, police officers, firefighters, transport workers. The chair began the meeting giving condolences to one of our bus drivers. And so, yes, those professions, individuals aren't perfect. They should be held to account. But I think making, sweeping generalisations, can cause challenges and can affect morale, can affect public confidence because we're respected from the public and stuff. I think we should be cognizant of the power of words and the power of what we say.
I'll hand back to the Chair. Thank you.
Assembly Member Hirani, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mayor, the attack at Kenton synagogues, following that attack, I attended a gathering, and at the event, the words of Rabbi Black were incredibly powerful. He said that they tried to intimidate us and instill fear, but they've done the opposite and brought us all here together. Now, representatives from the synagogue were particularly thankful to the Metropolitan Police because were it not for their intervention, the outcome could have been far worse in that particular instance. At a time when many Jewish Londoners have understandably felt vulnerable, that partnership working and community presence and cohesion is incredibly important in tackling the issues that we need to. Can you ensure that the Met continue to support our Jewish communities in tackling anti-Semitism wherever it occurs in London?
Can I thank the member for his question, but also his leadership in that part of London for many, many years as a councillor, now as an Assembly member, and the council has been fantastic as well. Just to remind other colleagues, Kenton United Synagogue was attacked when an accelerant was thrown through a window, causing fire in this synagogue. An arrest was made, and the person arrested has pled guilty to arson. 2 others have also been arrested, which shows the great work of the police that the member was referring to, but also the great partnership between the Community Security Trust, community volunteers, Jewish community volunteers, Shomrim and others. He knows the work of Hatzola. But this partnership and relationship is very important. And I think hopefully the community is reassured by the response of the police in recent weeks. I'm afraid the evidence from across the globe is this increase in anti-Semitism isn't a spike, it's a surge. That should worry all of us as decent human beings. And that's why we're lobbying the government for this sustained funding, because unfortunately, we don't think it's going away anytime soon. And again, the even worse news is you're a Jewish person, you'll know from your ancestors, this is a centuries-old hatred. And that's why education is really important, but the great work good councils, good politicians are doing is really appreciated by the community, I know.
Thank you. The next question is from Assembly Member Hall, and it's entitled Overcoming a Failing Legacy.
Thank you for your question. I'm extremely proud of my record of delivery since first being elected Mayor of London in 2016. I'm confident that Londoners would regard the delivery of our Universal Free Schools meals programme as a success. We've now provided more than 120 million nutritious free school meals to our state primary school pupils, ensuring our youngest children don't go hungry in the classroom, helping them to concentrate and learn, and saving parents around £500 per year per child. We've also cut toxic air pollution by half in central London, bringing our air within legal limits 200 years earlier than the experts predicted, and making sure millions of Londoners across our city are breathing cleaner air every day. Other successes include helping more than 20,000 rough sleepers off our streets, building the highest number of council homes in decades, and backing our businesses to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs. We've also made travel around London faster, cleaner and easier with the Night Tube, the Superloop, the Elizabeth Line, more zero-emission buses, a 5-fold increase in protected cycle lanes, and the Hopper bus fare. As announced recently, the Weekend Hopper will also be arriving soon, which will offer unlimited daily bus journeys for the price of a single fare during the school summer holidays. But our successes don't end there. After years of cuts, we've rebuilt our youth services from the ground up, creating more than 1 million positive opportunities for young Londoners, with plans now in place to support high-quality youth clubs in every borough. We've doubled funding from City Hall for the police, which has helped to bring our homicide rate down to its lowest level on record, with the fewest number of teenage homicides last year in 3 decades. And since I was elected in 2016, we've seen a 7-fold increase in the number of employers paying the London living wage, putting more than £1 billion extra into the pockets of our lowest paid Londoners. But obviously I do have some regrets, and that includes not being able to do more to stop a hard Brexit that has been hugely damaging for our city and country, and I regret not challenging more robustly those who are determined to talk down our city, stoke division for their own political gain, and deny the progress we've made.
Dearie me, 10 years, and that's what you say. When you first started, you said that the safety of Londoners was your #1 priority. Quite right, and so it should be. So why have you failed so spectacularly to increase police numbers in London? You now have 400 fewer police officers than you inherited as mayor.
Well, that's not quite right.
No, it is.
That's not quite right, Chair. The number of officers at the end of the financial year for which the previous mayor was responsible is less than the officers we have now, and police staff as well. And that's a consequence of the government, the previous government, cutting a third of core funding of the Met Police Service, £1.2 billion. So as a consequence, what we've had to do despite opposition from some on the Assembly, is to raise council tax precept, the policing precept, and also use business rates to fill the massive hole left by central government cuts. And that's one of the reasons why we've been able to see the progress we've made in terms of homicides, knife crime, burglaries, gun crime, and the like.
Yeah, you have indeed increased the precept. So we're all paying a lot more for less officers, yet we've got at least 500,000 extra people in London. Crime is building up. Let me have a look. Robbery has gone up 43%, 25% increase in knife crime, 61% increase in sexual offences since you've been there. Yet you keep telling us you're putting more money into it. We're going down to less officers than ever. And yet when there was a Conservative government, you insisted that you needed 38,000 police officers and that you were aiming for that because you knew that's what we needed. Yes, we do. Now, apparently, you've got the golden opportunity, to quote yourself there, for Londoners with the Labour government being in charge. Well, it's not a golden opportunity. It's been a complete and utter disaster, hasn't it, Mr. Mayor, with your completely and utterly disastrous Labour government. All I know now is we've got fewer officers on the street. You've just been talking to one of my colleagues that there's 350 people a day helping with the crisis in Brent for the Jewish community. They're coming from existing officers. That's no good. We haven't got enough officers. We need more officers. And it's no good just throwing a little bit of money at that now. We need their core budgets increased so that police have got confidence to go out and employ more officers, because that, I'm telling you, is what we need.
So, Chair, there are three areas raised by the member. One is investment from City Hall officers. Two is crime stats since 2016, and three is crime stats since the new Labour government was elected. Let me deal with each in turn. So from City Hall, we've more than doubled the investment in the police from the previous mayor. It was less than £600 million from the previous mayor. It's more than £1.2 billion now, so more than doubling of investment from City Hall, and that's paying for 1,300 officers that otherwise wouldn't be funded, PCSOs and the extra. And we've also increased neighbourhood police teams, really important to fighting crime, and increased the number of police staff as well. The second area raised by the member was crime since 2016. Well, crime since 2016, violence with injuries down by 13%. That's a reduction of 10,020 offences. Burglaries down by 31%. That's a reduction of 21,309 offences. Homicide is down by 15%. Gun crime is down by 57%, 147 fewer offences. Theft from a vehicle is down by 12%, a reduction of 5,877 offences. The member then goes on to talk about the golden opportunity of a Labour government. So let's look at the crime figures. Since we had a Labour government over the last 12 months, overall crime continues to fall year on year across London. Neighbourhood crime shows strong reduction. Personal theft down by 13%. Theft from person down by 22%.
We're talking about the last 10 years, Mr. Mayor.
Chair, bicycle theft down by 8%. Residential burglary of a home down by 6%.
You're cherry
Shoplifting
picking.
down by
No, stop this,
3%.
because you only ever cherry pick. Don't give that look to me. You cherry pick. We're looking at the last 10 years. We have 400 fewer officers than when you took over in the last 10 years. Overall crime is up nearly a quarter since you took over 10 years ago. Record amounts of money, you say, is going into it. Well, clearly that's not value for money then, is it? It's not value for money at all. Labour's idea so often is, oh, let's throw money at it and it'll be all right. Well, no, it's not. It's very, very poor return for the money of Londoners' money, and you are failing to keep them safe. So would you like to apologise to Londoners for not keeping them safe, Mr. Mayor, with your 10-year legacy?
Well, Chair, let's deal with this 10-year legacy. In terms of police officer numbers, at the end of the financial year, for which the last mayor was responsible, we had 31,049 police officers, 31,049. At the end of 25, we had 33,013. At the end of the next year, 27, we will still have 31,181 officers more than the previous mayor. Let's look at police staff. at the end of the last year, for which the previous mayor was responsible.
31,000. 38,000 is what you wanted.
Chair, you can't ask a question and then heckle when somebody's answering. At the end of the last financial year, for which the previous mayor...
But they're not accurate figures, Mr. Mayor. I think we should stop here because you
she wants to stop
cherry-pick.
now. She wants to stop because the answers aren't what she
I'll
likes.
publish these figures and it'll just show how dreadful you are. Thank you, Chairman.
Maybe you should stand for mayor.
Oh, do you know what? I knew you'd say that. And you know what it is? He's really upset that nobody's asked him to give up being mayor here so he can go and be the new Prime Minister. You're just going to have to get over it, Mr. Mayor.
Andy, not City.
Yes. Let's try and pull this ship back on course, shall we? Assembly Member Turrell, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Under your mayorage over the last 10 years, key transport projects have descended into shambles. The Elizabeth line, which you inherited on time and on budget, ended up being over 3 years late and £4 billion over budget. New rolling stock on the DLR, late £35 million over budget. New Piccadilly line trains, late £409 million over budget. Just from these projects alone, that's more waste, more money lost to mismanagement than the entire cost of the West London Orbital and the Bakerloo line extension. So, Mr. Mayor, under your decade leadership, why have so many projects descended into calamity, and what are you going to do to get a grip?
Let's deal with each of the projects he's mentioned in turn, because it's really important we do justice to the great work done in London. So, compare the Elizabeth line, for which I've been responsible over the last 3-4 years, to High Speed 2. The previous government responsible for 14 years. The Elizabeth line is open, 800,000 journeys a day since we took it over from Cross-Shoal Limited, on budget and on time. The most successful rail line in the country, taking passengers and commuters off other lines as well. The Northern Line extension, I was responsible for since 2016, on budget, on time, incredibly successful. We've also managed to have the Barking Riverside extension at London Overground, my project from the beginning, on budget, on time. Silvertown Tunnel, we were told it would never happen, on budget, on time, completely under my jurisdiction since taking over in terms of cost. Rolling stock has been rolled out to the DLR and Piccadilly line. One of the reasons we've got problems in Transport for London is a decision taken by the previous government to remove operating grant and a massive cut in capital grant. What we've got from this government, a doubling of investment in capital in TfL, but also for the first time in more than a decade, a multi-year deal to the tune of, on average, £550 million a year. Add to that the Night Tube. Previous mayor promised it, couldn't do it. We did it within a few months of me being elected mayor. The Superloop, Conservatives opposed it. We've done it. They're now lobbying for more Superloop buses. Bakerloop, going for an extension of the Bakerloo line extension. We've now got a deal from this government. The previous government said no for 8 years to the Docklands Light Railway to be extended to Thames, to the point the members now lobbying for it to go to Ispatch, the Bakerloo line extension and the Docklands Light Railway and the West London Orbital to be improved across London, are projects we believe in, and working with the government to get progress on those.
Thank you. The point of correction from the Mayor's previous answer, actually, I'm very much on the record of not wanting the Bakerloo line to come to Hayes in Bromley because of the disruption it will cause to people's travel there. And I've lobbied the Mayor to make changes to that scheme. But I do love how he clearly believes in the daily affirmation of if you say something enough, it becomes reality, because the reality is that the projects he has managed have all descended into calamity. In 2024, in your manifesto, you promised Londoners that together with a Labour government, there's no limit on what you can achieve. Yet 2 years on, all you've achieved is more borrowing. Do you accept, Mr. Mayor, that had so many of these projects not descended into calamity, had you not lost more money to mismanagement than the cost of doing the West London Orbital and doing the Bakerloo line extension, that you would be more successful in lobbying governments to fund these critical upgrades?
I'm the first mayor in the history of mayoralties that's brought the running costs of TfL down year on year. They had a deficit up until 2017. I'm the first mayor that's brought TfL into surplus. Not happened under his hero Boris Johnson. or the mayor before him as well. We've also managed to get from this government, he talks about the government, the largest multi-year settlement for London in over a decade, almost doubling of annual capital funding for a TfL, and the government giving the green light to the DLR extension to Thamesmead, helping to create 10,000 new jobs. And I was able to announce, because of our fantastic record, just over 10 days ago, the weekend hopper coming this summer holidays, or as I like to call it the Whopper. I'm sure when he takes advantage of the Whopper during the 6 weeks summer holidays, he'll also be saying that's down to Calamity Khan.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it was the creation of the earth, wasn't it?
Very good. Lovely commentary. Let's get on with the business. Assembly Member Ahmad.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr Mayor. Back to policing. Mr Mayor, you and I have had this conversation so many times in this chamber, and any second now the Conservative group will start shouting and chanting as they always do. But the facts are this. They had nothing to say when their government effectively defunded the Met by £1.2 billion in 14 years and 10 years of your tenure. This forced the Met to make £850 million worth of savings between 2010 and 2018. Mr Mayor, since you were elected, you've more than doubled funding from City Hall to make up this shortfall. If the Conservatives support police as much as they claim, don't you think they should be thanking you for stepping up when their government so shockingly let Londoners down?
I mean, the hypocrisy from the Conservatives is remarkable. When Boris Johnson was mayor, he closed down 341 police stations and police buildings. Did you hear a word from the Conservatives during that period? He closed down 83 front counters. These guys are disciples of Boris Johnson, let alone protégés. The previous government, Messrs Cameron Clegg, remember him, Nick Clegg? Cameron Clegg, Cameron May, Johnson, Truss, Sunak. I may have missed one out. They cut 1.2 billion pounds from the Met Police budget, core funding. Please. They never complained then. Notwithstanding those cuts, we've invested from City Hall, because I believe in investing in our police service. I believe in giving the police service the tools they deserve. I believe in having the right number of police officers, and that's led to the reduction in crimes. We're talking about still imperfect. There's still too much crime, particularly high-volume crime. We've got to make more progress. But I'll always be, unlike these guys, pro-police.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assembly Member Georgiou, please.
Good morning, Mr Mayor. I missed you over this prolonged break. It's good to see you again. Mr Mayor, under your failed decade as Police and Crime Commissioner of our great city, shoplifting has gone up by 94%. Theft from person has gone up by 146%. Public order offences have gone up by 24%. Robbery has gone up by 43%. Do you think this explains why the boss of M&S said that you do not have a grip on policing and are not prioritising policing?
But, Chair, can I park for a second the knockabout on stats, because you raised a really important point about shoplifting. It is a serious issue. So I'll come back. I can have the knockabout stuff in a little while if he wants to. It is serious. I've spoken to retail workers who've been assaulted, shopkeepers who have stopped reporting it now because they think, what's the point in reporting it? And it affects the relationship we have with law and order and a sense of unfairness. And we've got to get a grip on the issue of shoplifting. Other things as well, personal theft, personal robbery is also an issue. We can come to that as well as he wants. And so I want to address this in the way it deserves, which is it is a problem. We're addressing this. Over the last year, we've changed, the police have changed how they respond to this, which has led to some improvements, not enough. We need to make more improvements here as well. Can I give you some examples of the stuff we need to improve on? The police must respond to every complaint made of shoplifting. In the past, they weren't, and they've accepted that. They're going to do that. And it was a chicken and egg situation. The shops weren't reporting it because the police weren't responding. The police weren't, and so that's a big problem for everyone, and crime carries on. We had examples. I've been to an operation where individually shoplifter steals only a small amount from a shop, but cumulatively over a few days, that's like thousands of pounds. So you've got to take action even on a small amount. Shop workers have been assaulted and traumatised, affects their family, affects themselves. We think that technology can help us here in terms of swift reporting of crimes virtually from a shop, but also when there's CCTV, the success rate of a charge and conviction is massive. So we're trying to encourage shops to invest if they can and share the CCTV with the police if they can as well.
Mr. Mayor, I understand your approach, and we won't go for the knockabout, and we will take it seriously because you've responded in an appropriate way. Look, everything you've just said is fine for the big boys and girls that can afford it. We have 1 million small businesses in London, which are the backbone of our economy. You get a lot of money for them in business rates. Local authorities get a lot of money from them in business rates. And what is happening is, sadly, effectively, shoplifting and the various other offences attached to it have been decriminalised in London. So, you know, with the greatest respect, and you can respond in any way that you see fit, of course, it's all well and good saying these things now. You have been Mayor of London for 10 years. I'm not saying that other cities are not immune to these sorts of occurrences, but in London it seems to be a particular problem. So rather than talking about technology and what the big operators and shops and businesses can do, can you just please respond on a way the Met can respond to support smaller businesses, of which there are 1 million in London?
Yeah. So, firstly, he's right to remind all of us this is a nationwide problem. I speak to USDAW regularly, the trade union who represents shop workers across the country, small, medium and large. And this is an issue across the country. The disturbances we saw in Birmingham were the same week as we saw issues in Clapham. So it's a nationwide issue. So the good news is, because of our investment in policing and because of the Commissioner's focus on neighbourhood policing, having the conversation with the one-person shopkeeper that weren't having before, giving good crime advice, giving good preventative advice. Actually, a lot of those corner shops, retail, high street shops, do have the technology. They do invest in CCTV. They do have panic buttons, and they do know they do now know the neighbourhood police office on first name terms. They also, a lot of them have great business improvement districts that work
But I'm
with
sorry
the police
to interrupt
as
you,
well.
Mr. Mayor. That doesn't necessarily work. You know, if you look at the area I represent, Cockfosters, you know, very tidy high street, but we've only got about 3-4 ward officers, and there's a constant turnaround. So the problem is, and they're on shift patterns, so you can't always reach out to a local officer to have those conversations. So look, I'll leave it there, but the one thing that I would say, and perhaps you can put it in writing, is a way forward that you could see possibly for a change in legislation to crack down on shoplifting and possible future actions and powers the government can give you and the Met to tackle this more appropriately.
Can I answer this two ways? Firstly, the government's listened to some of our requests in terms of the threshold before the £200 summary trial issue, but also the powers that the police have to go in. Can I make an offer to him? I'm really happy for the police to listen to him in terms of his councillor experience and what shopkeepers are telling him about what more the police can do to reassure them in relation to the challenges he's raised. And I'm sure the police will be more than happy to meet with him to take on board his ideas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Assembly Member Lord Bailey, please.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. As always, I'll come to housing. It was confirmed last week that you failed to meet your housing target for your affordable housing programme under the 21-26 affordable housing programme, for which you were granted £4 billion by the previous government, even though the figure was seriously watered down. Do you regret this failure, and what are you going to do to improve the delivery?
I'm sorry to disappoint his excitement at the housing not being at the levels it should be, but the MHCLG, the government, have agreed with Homes England and the GLA, like they did during the pandemic, the previous government, to extend the period by which the target should be met. So he'll remember the 2016 to 21 AHB target, affordable housing programme target, was extended by 2 years by the previous government. The previous Secretary of State for Communities Local Government, because of the circumstances surrounding COVID. What this government has decided to do with Homes England and GLA, because of the what we call the perfect storm of circumstances facing housing across the country, has agreed to extend the affordable housing programme target by 6 months to the end of September, to allow those schemes that are in tray but haven't started to do so. And that 6-month extension means that both Homes England and GLA will have until the end of September to work with developers, councils and others to get those starts off the ground.
Yeah, but you say that. First and foremost, I'm not excited about you failing to hit the target, because I really do want you to hit it, because there's people who need a place to live, multiple hundreds of thousands of people in this city who need a place to live. I'm not excited about it. But let's be clear, it was extended because you failed to hit it by such a wide margin. Your own government asked for 88,000 homes a year. You were nowhere close to that. Your own figure of 52,000, you missed that by a wide margin of just an unbelievably wide margin. You missed it by. So you've just talked about what everybody else is going to do to improve the situation. What are you going to do to improve the situation?
I think the members conflating the Affordable Homes Programme with overall starts and completions. So if I do with the Affordable Homes Programme, which is what we're talking about in terms of the extension, over the last period, 24-25, there has been a 168% increase in homes started, 9,147. Social rent levels, an increase of 151%, 7,000. Council homes, an increase of 191%, 3,865. So we're seeing big increases in the Affordable Homes Programme, which is why I suspect the government has allowed Homes England outside London and the GLA inside London to have a 6-month extension. And for completions, these are Affordable Homes Programme. For the first time since the GLA was founded, for 5 years in a row, there have been more than 10,000 completions. And that's why it's really important for us to continue to work with developers, private sector, councils, housing associations, small builders to get house building going again.
You talk about completions, but let's be fair, you've missed it by a wide margin no matter how you cut this pie. So it's no point you bombarding Londoners with lots of figures. They are now seeing the difference between the rhetoric. They're now seeing the difference between the rhetoric and the lack of delivery. Do you regret that over 32,000 homes have still not been completed from your 26-23 Affordable Homes Programme, 3 years after you claimed these homes had been started? Do you understand that people cannot live in a start, and what actions you will be taking to make this a matter of urgency? These homes are started, according to you, 3 years ago, and they're still not delivered. So we have these homes that haven't been delivered. Forget the ones that you're meant to be delivering now. You still haven't delivered the ones you meant to deliver from the last Affordable Homes Programme. So what are you going to do to increase the delivery of those homes, those 32,000 homes that still haven't materialised?
I think he's referring to the 2016 to 2023.
Yes, the ones that you failed to do the first time. Yes, those ones.
Again, I don't want to spoil his thunder. We smashed the target. The target was 116,000 starts, and we smashed that between 2016 and 2023. So the target was set, the target was met. There's a separate conversation about completions. One of the reasons we went back to the government and said that your criteria can lead to perverse incentives is you don't factor in delaying some allocation of money until completions. So the 116,000 homes that were started between 2016 and 2023, he's right. I'm really pleased that more than 88,000 have been completed. The rest may have begun towards the end of 23. It could take 4 years on average for them to be completed. We're hopeful that the remainder will be completed soon. At the same time, what we've said to the government is for 23 to 26, the allocation of funding should include not just a start, but also a completion, which incentivises the developer to get the homes completed. And for the next allocation, 26 to 36, we've said to the government, in addition to focusing on affordable homes, you should focus on allocating the money and giving deadlines for homes to be started, first floor, and completed. That way you'll get the homes completed sooner rather than later.
So you're happy that you have 32,000 homes that haven't even been completed from the previous programme. There's Londoners today who will be listening to this, be thinking, hold a minute, the mayor's just talked about smashing targets, but what am I going to live in? They cannot live in a start, a point that's been made to you 100 times. What are you going to do about delivering these 32,000 homes from the previous programme that don't exist, that money has been paid for, that Londoners need? What are you going to do to bring them forward? That's what we want to know.
Well, firstly, we told the previous government this is the wrong way to allocate money, and so we've managed to persuade the government to change the allocation of money henceforth, incredibly important for 23 to 26. Secondly, we've managed to persuade this fantastic government to give us funding for those sites that have stalled, because some sites have stalled, not just in 2016 to 23, but 23 to 26.
Mr. Mayor,
so this additional,
sorry, all joking aside,
you've asked a question.
I know. I'm not playing with you. I just want to quickly put something to you so I can stop, because you know I'm on a timer. You claim to have completed 10,892 affordable homes in the past year. Can you please provide a breakdown of these by scheme? You don't have to answer that. You could do it in writing. I just want to get that on the record so that you can give me those details. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Assembly Member Garrett, please.
So we're talking about your 10-year legacy. London house building has fallen 84% in the last decade. That's your legacy on housing. That's why people are finding it hard to find somewhere to live. That's why rents are going up. And it is inner London Labour councils that have been leading that failure. Let me tell you, we looked at the numbers. For the 4-year average for completions by borough, right? Croydon, Outer London Borough, fantastic Conservative mayor, over 2,000 completions per year. Lewisham, less than 900. Islington, 500. Lambeth, less than 500. Hackney, less than 900. Camden, 600. It's inner London Labour councils that have been leading the failure on house building in London, isn't it?
Well, those homes that are completed in Croydon were begun by the last Labour council and the last Labour mayor. He'll be well aware of that situation. So it's important to put that on record. And I want to thank the previous Labour administration for starting those homes. One of the reasons why there are homes in central inner London that haven't been completed is because record numbers were begun, because those councils have carried the burden of house building other councils haven't undertaken, but they've also faced the perfect storm. What's the perfect storm? Interest rates going to the roof because of the mini budget from
same interest rate in Croydon.
And the homes in central inner London, which the members heckling me, but I'll respond to the heckle, are taller, more complex, and more expensive, so require more borrowing than those in outer London.
Are you serious? There's multiple 40-storey buildings in Croydon completed in the last few years. You're not serious.
And we've also got a situation where challenges because of construction inflation and steel inflation have affected those homes as well. One of the things we've done working with those excellent councils and the government,
I don't think their residents thought they were all excellent last week.
Unlock those stalled sites. And I'm confident over the course of this year, you'll see those stalled sites unlocked.
Well, let's talk about Southwark, shall we? Come up to date this week. Southwark is championing the fact that 867 new homes, the incredibly, apparently tall, disproportionately tall 7 stories, which will be fascinating for people in Sutton and Croydon, 7 stories in Zone 2, next to a railway station in Peckham. Sarah King, the Labour leader of Southwark, said that blocking these homes marked, quote, a great day for Peckham. This is why inner London councils aren't building. They don't want to build. Do you think that was a great day for Peckham this week when that huge development was blocked?
I'm not sure about the individual site, Chair, so I can't comment on that.
You're not aware of that proposal for 867 new homes in Lambeth, that is, in Peckham, that has been all over the news. OK, let's talk about something that you definitely are aware of, the Greater London Authority Land and Property Limited. This is the Mayor's own land bank, freehold, directly owned and controlled by City Hall, your Chief of Staff, your Deputy Mayor, these are directors of this, right? Supposed to build 68,000 homes on 635 hectares, right? After a decade as mayor, you have not even started 20,000. It's like 19,200, right? And some of those were started before you came into office. So let's look at some specific schemes, like Barking Riverside, you must be aware of that. 20,000 homes you reckon you can build there. You've only started 3,000. The Greenwich Peninsula, 17,500 homes there should be there. You've only started 3,500. Stevenson Street, 5,000 homes. You've only started 1,000. Royal Dock Silvertown Quays, you can see that out of your bloody office window, right? Nearly 3,000 homes should be going there. You've not even started 1,000. This failure is your failure. This is why a decade of your mayoralty, house building is down, and this is you. Why don't you take any responsibility for this complete failure to build on the land that you directly own and control?
Well, Chair, first, I've got to apologise for my rudeness. Commiserations to the member for not winning his seat on May the 7th in the Council.
See, I can tell I'm winning when you decide to be personal and insulting. Why aren't you building homes? Londoners want to know why their rents are going up and why they can't find anywhere to live. And it's because of all of this failure. Labour councils, Labour mayor, a decade of failure. That's why, isn't it?
Yeah, some said you'll let me speak and answer the question. It's not.
You weren't answering the question. You were hurling insults. But anyway, have a go.
That's very gracious of the member to let me have a go.
I'm uncertain. What's the question that's been asked?
Do you take any responsibility at all for the failures that I listed on the Greater London Authority Land and Property, where at the current rate of progress, right, it's supposed to be a 25-year programme, you're 10 years in, at the current rate of progress, you won't get it finished this century. They reckon they'll start 500 homes this year. It's a terrible record. It's your record, and this is the land and the development that you directly control. Why has it been so bad?
I take complete responsibility for the record-breaking homes that have been started and completed in London over the last 10 years. We're building more council homes in London than any time since the 1970s. We're completing more homes in London than any time since the 1930s. And working with this government, we've managed to unlock a funding scheme, but also an emergency package of measures that will fix some of the problems inherited from the previous government, but also the legacy of a number of policies that have been inherited. Legacies like the consequences of a hard Brexit that leads to a shortage of construction workers. A legacy like steel inflation at 50%, concrete inflation at 44%. A legacy like problems caused by the building safety regulator regime, which means it takes months to get the green light for a tall building and months to get things sorted out to do with a second staircase. This government is sorting out the mess.
Chairman, he's monologuing and repeating his talking points. He's not engaging with my question on the points I made. But he has, let me say, he has answered the question. It's very clear he doesn't take any responsibility and nothing is going to change. I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assembly Member Best, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. After the awful losses that Labour suffered in London in the local elections, well, I think fantastic, but I'm sure they were awful for you. You let out a statement saying, I keep hearing anger, disillusionment and disappointment, and the direction of that anger, disillusion and disappointment is at the Labour government. Are you seriously, after everything we've heard today, everything we've heard for the past 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years, not going to take any responsibility at all? You're not going to have any self-reflection? Because I can tell you one thing I heard on the doors, it was get Sadiq Khan out.
Yeah, she said that in 2016, 2021 and 2024 as well, and look where that ended up. Look, let me be quite clear. We've got some
Sorry, you don't think that anybody wants you out? You don't think you're the problem?
We've had some great councillors and great councils who've lost their seats, and the councils have changed political party, and I think through no fault of those individual councillors and the performance of those councils. And I think a lot of the votes on May the 7th, in any way taken away from the successes of the other parties, was because of people's views about national government. And I think you've got to reflect when it comes to...
I agree. People think the national government are awful too. But the question is you. No, sorry, I just need to help him focus his attention. I know it's difficult, but focus on the question in hand. We all understand that the government are rubbish. I think there's wide agreement now that that's the case. I'm asking, do you take culpability that you've also been a bit rubbish too?
Well, Chair, why doesn't she stand to be the next Conservative candidate for the mayoral elections? I mean, let's test that theory out.
Well, if you're standing, I'd do a great job. But I think you might be gone, mightn't you? Isn't it Dawn Butler wants the job next time? Anyway, the point of the matter is it is serious. There's a litany of failures here. And this is a perfect point for you to self-reflect on the fact that Londoners can't afford to live because house building's gone down 84% and you've missed every target for affordable housing. Londoners can't go to their front counters at police stations to report crime. They see less officers because there's 420 less than when you took charge. Their buses keep on terminating because you've brought the streets to gridlock. The trains keep on terminating because you haven't invested in new stock. They're seeing the reality of this every day. And I'm asking you, do you take any culpability for the losses of last week? It's a very, very simple question. Do you take any culpability for the losses of last week?
Chair, we've had a 1.5 minute simple, serious question. I hope you give me at least a minute and a half to give a serious, simple answer. So I'm really proud, and I've reflected on my decision to say no when they said don't clean up the air, for me to clean up the air. They said no. Don't bring in policies that will clean the air in London, that will reduce kids with stunted lungs, reduce adults with asthma, cancer, dementia, heart disease, and I'm really proud, and I've reflected on that. I've reflected on the Conservative candidate running to be mayor saying there shouldn't be free school meals in primary schools, and I said, no, I will do that. We've now delivered more than 120 million free school meals, saving an average family with one child £500. I reflected on the fact that I've more than fivefold increased the amount of money we invest in rough sleeping. They voted against our budget. We've taken 20,000 people off our streets because of our investment. I reflected on that. It was the right thing to do to reject the Conservative Party saying I shouldn't do that. They said no to council housing. no council housing.
You're making up a lot of lies. That says, I'm sorry, but lies is the only word we can define it. We have never said that we're opposed to any of those things, apart from ULEZ, which we definitely were, and I stand by lies, so that is a lie, he knows it. It is sheer arrogance. It's pig-headed arrogance. It's pig-headed ignorance that you can't take any responsibility for what's happening in London. You must take people out there for daft tuna. They are looking at the stats. They can see what's going on. It's arrogance. You're sitting there and you won't even self-reflect. You're happy to blame everybody else, but not you. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I do accept responsibility.
It was a flourish, not a question.
If only it was a flourish. I do, Chair, reflect.
Well, we're still waiting to see one from you.
The Elizabeth line, the night tube, the Superloop, more zero-emission buses, more cycling. They oppose that. The Hopper bus fare, the weekend Hopper, and I could go on. And I'm just disappointed that on a serious issue like Mayor's Question Time, there should be this nonsense about reflections when I'm really proud of, over the last 10 years, the things we've achieved and even more ambitious for the next 10 years.
Thank you.
What does we think Mayor's Question Time's for? Are we not supposed to scrutinise his record? I thought that's what...
Thank you.
Yeah, but...
Right.
I'm just confused that he
Talking of...
we should scrutinise his record at Mayor's
Thank you. Thank you. That's enough. I will now ask a question, so if I can go on the clock, please. Mr. Mayor, you failed to listen to your own party on Oxford Street and your plans for pedestrianisation. You failed to listen to them when you grabbed planning powers from elected councillors. You failed to publish postcode analysis of the consultations and left it to the elections to prove to you that residents hated your scheme. You cancelled a fully funded £90 million Westminster scheme after £23 million had already been spent. And you failed to adequately consult disabled groups, which has left us with no plans for step-free access for Oxford Circus. Mr. Mayor, will you now meet with the leader of Westminster Council so we can rescue the street from your Temu version of pedestrianisation?
Well, Deputy Chair, I'm sure you'll give me a chance to respond to the Chair's two-minute question. So let me deal with the issue of Oxford Street. Oxford Street is not a local high street that's just dictated by the local council. It is a national asset. It's a critical national importance. And it's really important. We understand the importance of a decline in Oxford Street, which has been for the last 10, 20 years. What I will not do is listen to the new council's plans for a new mound. The previous mound on Marble Arch was a disaster. So, you know, they'll forgive me for not taking their views in terms of investment seriously. I've seen the difference having a development corporation around the old Olympic Park has made. 5 councils worked with mayors of different political parties to make sure the legacy was a good one and that the entire city and the entire country could benefit from the Olympic Park. I've seen how 5 or 6 councils have worked with mayors of different political parties around Old Oak Common to make sure that piece of national infrastructure is used for the benefit of the wider city and the country. I would hope the new council will see the benefits of Oxford Street being developed with the pedestrianisation. In relation to the specific point around disabled groups, the Disability Advisory Group, accessibility specialists are co-designing Oxford Street. We've got the Independent Disability Advisory Group, TfL's working with the team. A Mayor's Design Advocate with lived experience working with the team. So very much the Oxford Street Development Corporation are working with disability groups to make sure we have the best possible scheme. The final point to make, Deputy Chair, is this. We currently have a situation where the retailers, up until our plans were announced, were leaving Oxford Street. Shoppers weren't going there and instead going online or to out-of-town shopping malls. Since us getting involved...
Mr. Mayor, to cut this short, because I am on time, you've laid out your case there. Are you refusing to meet with Paul Swaddle to talk about Oxford Street?
Oh, well, Westminster City Council have got representatives on the Development Corporation. I'm more than happy for the team to meet with him to discuss any concerns.
Are you going to meet with him?
I'd be more than happy to meet with him. I'm more than happy to meet with any council leader or executive mayor.
Thank you very much, and I'll leave it at that. The next question is from Assembly Member Small Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just on that same point, Mr Mayor, rather than a Marble Arch mound, what I think would be quite good would be improving the pedestrian experience from Oxford Street through Marble Arch into Hyde Park. Is that something you're potentially considering as part of your significant investment and improvements?
Yes, as part of the £150 million that the local council wouldn't invest, we hope to see that part of the street improved as well. He knows the challenges there are in terms of that part of the street, but also the link with Marble Arch and Hyde Park, and I'm excited by some of the very, very early conversations Oxford Street DC are having with partners around there. And what's great is the excitement and investment to follow from the private sector. That shows where there is certainty, there is a plan, the private sector is willing to invest.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. The next question is from Assembly Member Prince concerning Gallows Corner reopening.
I want to thank Assembly Member Prince for his assiduous commitment to this important issue. The flyover was built in the 1970s as a temporary structure, and its renewal will mean it can continue to serve Londoners reliably for decades to come. The strengthened flyover will allow for the removal of speed and weight restrictions and will improve journey times, reliability and safety. Once completed, the refurbished flyover will also include new pedestrian and cycle crossings to make walking and cycling journeys safer, while improved road markings and resurfacing will improve journeys for people driving. I'm pleased that having completed extensive technical and safety assurance checks, TfL reopened some sections of the road network to general traffic on Sunday the 10th of May, which is already having some positive impacts on the local area. That's because last month TfL completed all its own significant works on the project. Unfortunately, while Essex and Suffolk Water, ESW, had also completed their planned construction activities, they then identified the need for some additional works as part of the testing and commissioning of the newly installed water main, which has led to further delays. I'm informed that the water main is large and serves many local households, so this is complex and challenging work for Essex and Suffolk Water, who say they're working at pace to complete the required repairs. I'm pleased that TfL worked hard with all the parties to deliver the partial reopening, which involved reopening the flyover eastbound and allowing traffic to flow between the A12 and A127 eastbound. Straight Road and Main Road also fully reopened. However, due to delays with Essex and Suffolk Water, the flyover will remain closed westbound and the A12 southbound will remain only open to buses to allow water main works to continue safely and to help manage traffic in the area. I'm told the cost for TfL works to renew the flyover up to the end of period 12 or the end of February 2026 was £66 million. I recognise how deeply frustrating the situation continues to be for local residents, businesses and road users in Havering and across that part of London.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, first of all, I recognise the fact that one of the first things you did when you were elected 10 years ago, you came down to, met me at Gallows Corner, and you said that the status quo cannot continue. And to be fair, we have got a new flyover, so thank you for that. But the rest of it, I'm afraid, is a bit of a charade. And my biggest complaint, Mr. Mayor, and it's been consistent, it's not so much that things have gone wrong, and technically things have gone very wrong, especially in relation to Essex and Suffolk Water. It's the gaslighting, the misinformation, the disinformation, the non-information, and the fact that I'm finding out every time what's happening through the back door, and I get told about 2 or 3 days after the events happened that this is what's going to be happening, and that's not acceptable. What's even worse is the way that the businesses are being treated. I can read you a letter here. Less than one, this is from a small business that is affected by the changes, less than 1 day's notice as they shut us down 2 days early. Formal notice 17:50 on Thursday the 7th. That night closed off Friday 8th of May, all access blocked. This business cannot access his business anyway. It says compensation does not even cover wages and cost that if we agree to no disclosure and forfeit the right to any future claim. So they're being asked to do a non-disclosure claim form because somebody wants to cover up the truth. Mr. Mayor, you said you were going to be transparent, and in some areas you are, I agree, but asking them to sign a non-disclosure forfeit, that's not the way that you do business, is it, really? These people have been left high and dry.
Look, Chair, the story that members telling me is just appalling. Can I suggest two things? One is, Chair, I will instruct TfL every Friday morning to contact the member to give them an update every Friday as to progress of the further works, what more is going to happen. So he at least can because he knows the community very well, can be person getting out the information if the current system's not good enough. Secondly, I'll ask TfL to look into the individual case he's referred to and stuff. I can understand, theoretically speaking, because things are commercially sensitive, why some things want to be kept discreet, but I don't know enough about the case. But can I ask, again, Chair, the TfL to look into that individual case to find out why there was a non-disclosure clause to see if we can resolve that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. The next question is concerns energy priorities in London, and it's from Assembly Member Polanski.
Thank you for your question. A fairer London means warmer homes, lower bills and clean energy for Londoners. Secure and affordable energy for Londoners is a matter of social justice, as far as I'm concerned. For too long, Londoners have been at the behest of volatile energy markets because of our reliance on fossil fuels, and it's the most vulnerable Londoners who are most impacted by these changes. That's why across London we're retrofitting our public estates, making them more affordable to heat, reducing fuel poverty and freeing up funding for key services. London's energy transition will reduce bills, improve energy security, create new high-quality jobs and improve Londoners' health whilst also reducing carbon emissions. Last year I launched Warmer Homes London in collaboration with London councils. In 1 year we've supported the retrofit of over 1,000 homes, of which over 600 homes have received Trustmark lodgement, with more to follow, providing households with warmer, cooler, healthier, more affordable places to call home. Over the next 2 years we'll accelerate delivery and support even more Londoners to retrofit their homes through London's integrated settlement. My Zero Carbon Accelerator continues to support public sector institutions like the NHS to decarbonise, saving money which can be put back into frontline health services for Londoners. This has supported 7 NHS trusts across 8 solar and heat pump projects, with estimated annual energy savings of over £515,000. My Greener Schools programme has supported over 40 schools so far to install solar panels and other carbon-saving measures, saving them thousands of pounds a year, which can be spent on other priorities. I welcome the government's local power plan and support for community energy. In London, I'm already supporting almost 200 community energy projects, and soon I'll announce the successful projects in the 8th round of my Community Energy Fund, empowering local communities to reduce fuel poverty and democratise our energy system. My intention is for 100% of Transport for London's power consumption to come from clean sources by 2030, demonstrating our commitment to clean energy across the GLA Group. And this is evidenced by recent agreements with EDF Renewables and SSE Energy Solutions to provide clean power to TfL, covering 10% of its current electricity consumption. I look forward to continuing driving an energy transition for Londoners, whilst working closely with the government and partners to ensure that interventions to make energy more affordable works for London.
Thank you very much. And as always, thank you for framing it as an issue of social justice. We know that the UN Secretary-General said this is the crucial decade of action on the climate crisis, and cities have a major role to play. We also know that we're in a cost of living crisis where people are facing a toxic combination of high bills and low wages and really being squeezed. So affordable, secure energy is a key place to go. A lot of the measures you're saying are good. They feel quite siloed, and I don't even necessarily mean that as a criticism. I know some of it is just about what's in your powers. What I'm interested, though, is when we look at 2030, what is your vision of affordable, secure energy for all Londoners?
So actually, his criticism is a fair one. They're in silence because the funding comes from different pots of money. It's frustrating, the lack of joined-upness. And it answers his bigger question, which is if we've got an integrated settlement, if we've got monies devolved to London in one pot, we could have some joined-upness. I'll give you a simple example. The power purchase agreement we've got with TfL is TfL using its procurement power to change the market, right? Well, actually, think about the police and the fire service and all the other councils and NHS. Think of the power of the public sector in London to affect the market in terms of procurement. And so, by 2030, we'll have made lots of progress. I don't think we'll get to, on current trajectory, net zero in London by 2030. I think we'll get there for GLA Group, which is quite a big achievement, bear in mind what we started with. What I'd like is not just more devolution, but the grid's got to change. I mean, a lot of the problems we're having is because the grid relies upon fossil fuel, historical fossil fuel. If we can change the grid, the opportunities are huge. Final thing to answer your question, no time is short. We've got to retrofit buildings. So from a standing still going forward, I'm really hopeful. But what about all the stuff that's been built 100 years old, 60 years old? And so you're almost giving people renewables, cheaper bills, but they're letting it out because their buildings aren't properly insulated and so forth. So a combination of two things, dealing with supply, but also dealing with the issue of the infrastructure we've got in London.
Yeah, and that integrated settlement feels really important from government. You mentioned a milestone there, which was to have TfL as 100% on clean energy. I'm wondering about what other milestones there are, because you just said that we won't necessarily hit net zero by 2030, which is worrying. But if we're having this conversation in a year's time, what target should we be looking at, particularly in light of fuel poverty? Is there an amount of Londoners, for instance, you want to remove from fuel poverty?
Yeah, so thanks for the question and the interest he takes in this. So, firstly, I mean, Caroline Russell, sitting to members' left, worked with us in terms of carbon budgeting. Yep. And she will tell you where we began to where we are, light years. We want to make more progress on carbon budgeting, but wouldn't it be great if everyone was doing carbon budgeting, right? Because you start thinking about things differently. In fact, the design concept, when it comes to renewing a fleet, when it comes to So I think that changes your thinking if you've got it at your core in relation to this. So we currently have 300,000 households in London fuel poverty. That's got to come down, obvious reasons. I can't give them a figure of how much I want it to come down by, because we're affected to some extent by the cap the government's got until end of June. Clearly, I'll be lobbying for that cap to be extended for obvious reasons. I mean, people pay higher bills autumn and winter than they do in spring and summer for obvious reasons. In the meantime, what I want to do is give Londoners the tools to reduce their bills. We've got a cost of living hub. We're giving people advice in terms of how they can maximise benefits, but also can we retrofit their homes? Can we help with insulation? Can we help with public buildings as well? So families are facing a cost of living crisis, but the public sector are also facing challenges in terms of the monies they've got. So we want to help both.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Assembly Member Lord Duval.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think you can also tell... Look, I'll tell you what, I've got to say this because it's festering away in me. I'm disappointed in the member because I know he could be better by not making a personal statement off the clock earlier on about his personal position, which arose in the last couple of weeks. Now, Mr Mayor, what you can say to that member as well, in 2030, what we're not going to do is those members to the right of you and the members to the right of me, we ain't going to be doing fracking in Croydon and relying on issues of that and or in terms of unfettered issues. We're going to maintain our commitment to the green agenda in terms of that energy security and social justice that you've just had the exchange on. But be very clear, those seeking simple solutions that take us back to the past will cause untold damage to our future and future generations. And we're going to have no truck with that. We have no truck with that.
There's 2 points to respond to. The passionate observation made by the member is, firstly, people have been sold a pup. The idea you can, by giving a licence, affect the international market when it comes to the amount of energy you pay this summer and all this, it's just not true. I mean, the price you pay for your electricity bill and gas bill is not affected in the short to medium term by licensing or fracking taking place in North Sea, elsewhere. That's not how the international markets work. And that's actually one of the reasons, part saving the planet and tackling the climate emergency, one of the reasons to have energy security. Because if you've got renewables, think of community energy. You're democratising the production of energy with solar panels and so forth. So, but also you can control the cost as well. So you're killing two birds with one stone, saving the planet and addressing the cost of living crisis as well. And unfortunately, there are some people for short-term political posturing, because people have got fears that they are just talking nonsense. And that's why it's really important to call them out as he's done. And that's why there needs to be a coalition of us, not just Labour politicians, Green politicians, hopefully Lib Dems, and others calling out the nonsense from some in relation to fossil fuels and in relation to renewables.
And Mr Mayor, then just following on from that, here we are in this great capital, this great centre of innovation, academic, business, creativity. What can we do to bring, I think the member said we work in silos, how do we bring some of that growth agenda to move on to those new technologies that are constantly changing? I'm thinking in terms of batteries and the use of batteries and better storage of energy in some areas. There are obviously numerous other areas. So what can we do here in London to capture that, bring those partners together and actually build on that, get a win-win situation of also what we said, and we're just missing in some of that earlier exchange about jobs as well, in terms of that could arise from that.
You know, one of the things, bless you, one of the things that we've worked on over the last year is a growth strategy for London. And actually, it's been on a cross-party basis. The Mayor of Croydon, for example, has played a big role in relation to working with us.
Don't tell them, because they'll stop it.
Because it's got to be cross-party. It's got to be councils, businesses, universities. The Deputy Mayor for Business has done a brilliant job. And that addresses some of the points the member raised, because he's spot on. We want to turn this crisis into an opportunity. But also think about the more than 50 universities in London doing great innovation, from carbon capture to cell technology to solar and so forth. The government's going to help with the Sovereign Wealth Fund, in terms of keeping some of that intellectual property and in this country. But think about, ask the question, what is the future of our country? Medium-sized country, 70 million people. We've seen the impact of Putin's invasion of Ukraine, Trump's war with Iran. We've got to be energy secure. And I think he's spot on in terms of opportunities for us. We're pivoting our adult education budget to train more people in these future-proof, well-paid green jobs. Who's going to make the electric cars, the electric buses? Who's going to install the solar panels? Who's going to make the solar panels? Who's going to make the wind turbines? Who's going to install them? The electric vehicle charging points, and I could go on. And so there's huge opportunities for us in London. And also there's a first-mover advantage in terms of some of this stuff as well. There are some challenges. We've got an issue with the grid and power for homes, but also power for data centres. These are conversations that we should be having out in the open, rather than sort of hoping we get some of the crumbs from what's happening elsewhere.
Thank you.
Thank you. Due to a number of questions being answered earlier and a couple of withdrawals, the next question is in the name of Assembly Member Ahmad, and it concerns the increased terror threat level.
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank the member for her question? The decision to raise the national threat level to severe was made on the advice of the Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre, JTAC. JTAC is the UK's independent authority for assessing all-source terrorism intelligence and sets the UK terrorism threat levels. Whilst this increase came about in the aftermath of the horrific attack in Golders Green and the spate of anti-Semitic arson attacks over recent months, this isn't solely a response to these attacks. Moreover, a decision to raise threat levels is related to the fact that we're experiencing an array of threats from state actors and others that combined have tipped the assessment of risk into a higher category. I'm in constant contact with the Met, and we're working closely with the government and security services. I recently attended a COBRA meeting chaired by the Prime Minister to discuss the UK security in the aftermath of the recent attacks. For most Londoners, day-to-day life won't look or feel any different. Unless you're in one of the areas where we have increased our policing presence, you may not notice much change at all. But the Met's work will look different. Its overall security posture is shifting. As some Londoners will have seen already, there are additional police officers on our streets, including armed officers, especially within and around London's Jewish communities. We don't want Londoners and visitors to be fearful or scared. Instead, I want Londoners to be reassured that the Met is working hard with partners to protect London and keep us safe. Specialist officers are working around the clock, and all the emergency services are preparing day in, day out. It's also important that Londoners continue to be vigilant and alert, and to report anything suspicious to the police. On the 5th of May, we convened an extraordinary contest board meeting in response to the recent anti-Semitic attacks, bringing partners and agencies together to discuss the raised terror threat level, current risk picture and next steps. I especially want to pay tribute to the Met and the LFB, the London Fire Brigade, alongside all those agencies who have been working so hard over recent weeks to protect and reassure London's Jewish communities at this concerning time. I know from my own visits and conversations with Jewish Londoners that this work is seen and appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to put on record my thanks to all of our fabulous emergency services who go out of their way every day to keep Londoners safe and to keep us out of harm's way. Mr. Mayor, given the increased threat being faced by us, how important is it for elected representatives to work to support the police and other emergency services in keeping Londoners safe?
Can I thank the member for a question? I think we're on the same side here. And I think it's recognised in who the sides are. And also, one of the people that we didn't, I know she's recognised the great work they do, we didn't thank was the Jewish volunteers, from Community Security Trust to Shomrin to Hatzola. It's quite remarkable, this sense of citizenship that exists amongst our faith communities, particularly the Jewish community, in the context of what they face. But the police aren't the baddies. These volunteers aren't the baddies. And so it's really important to recognise that, and also recognise the daily challenge of being a police officer in London. I mean, literally, if you think about the Golders Green attack, and have in your mind the attack on the synagogue in Manchester, have in your mind the attack on Keith Palmer, who lost his life in Houses of Parliament, have in your mind what we know happened at London Bridge, and I could go on.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And having been out with my own BCU, particularly on Saturday afternoon when it came to the protest, I absolutely agree with you. I have seen how wonderful our police force is and some of the challenges that they have to face on a day-to-day basis. Mr Mayor, are there any further steps the government can take to help the Met protect Londoners from state-sponsored terrorism?
So the phrase used by one of the leading police officers on this, I think the head of counter-terror, was, inverted commas, these are thugs for hire. What's happening is foreign state actors, hostile states, we know there's the current Iranian regime could be involved in some of this, are paying thugs to do bad things, targeting those who are anti the Iranian regime and targeting those who are Jewish as well. So we've got to be on the lookout for places where thugs are being hired to carry out these awful anti-Semitic attacks. We've got to make sure we give young people the stoicism, the resilience to reject these sorts of hatred. But also we need to make sure there's tough enforcement. One of the things the Prime Minister was keen to do was to make sure there's swift justice. Really important those who are responsible are arrested, charged, prosecuted, and go through the courts very quickly. But also potential thugs for hire in the future see there's a consequence if you do this sort of stuff as well. And the final thing is, look, I've said this earlier on this morning, we do as the Met need more resources to do some of the stuff that we need to do, and so I won't be afraid to lobby the government, doesn't matter which political party it is, for those additional resources that we need.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next question is in the name of Assembly Member Moema, and it's about Renters' Rights Enforcement Fund.
Thank you for the question. The Renters' Rights Act represents the biggest positive shake-up of private renting for a generation. Renters have lived with insecurity for far too long, and the significance of this moment cannot be understated. Her and I have talked about this, I think, as long as she's been a member of the Assembly. 2.7 million Londoners now have stronger rights to stay in their home and to live in homes that are properly maintained, safe and decent. I've campaigned with her long and hard for many of these changes, which bring us more into line with many of our European neighbours, and I'm proud that this government has succeeded where others have failed. The recommendations made in my 2019 London model of tenancy reform are now reflected in national legislation. These include ending Section 21 evictions, mandating open-ended tenancies, reformed possession grounds, increased notice periods, and new rights for families with children and pet owners. These rights are only meaningful, however, if renters know about them and can enforce them. I'm pleased that the government is running a national awareness campaign, but I'm also using my resources to bolster these efforts so that all Londoners benefit rapidly from the changes, including our poster campaigns on the TfL network advising Londoners about the changes. I've recently announced a new £400,000 Renters' Rights Enforcement Fund ahead of the Act coming into force and fulfilling the manifesto commitment. The fund will support renters' organisations to help renters across London to defend their rights with advice and guidance. It will also provide training for local authority enforcement officers, better equipping councils to enforce the Act and hold landlords to account. This extends existing work with London boroughs through my private rented sector partnership, my support for property licensing schemes, and my online private renting tools and checkers. This complements other actions to support and empower renters in London. This includes the launch of our key worker living homes, expanding the use of damp and mold sensors in social housing, and the Ending Homelessness Accelerator programme.
Thank you, Mayor Khanna. It's really nice to see you after a few months away from me. And I'm really glad to see that whilst I've been away, adding extra person to London's population, the Labour government has brought in finally the Renters' Rights Act, and that has now got some teeth behind it. I guess one of the things that has been mentioned today, that in my constituency, but in other parts of London where rents have really outpaced wages and supply, obviously we know about that particular issue, private renters have been crying out for something like this. So it's really, really important that the Mayor's office, takes its role really seriously in making sure that renters understand their rights and that landlords understand their rights and their obligations too. So I just wanted to ask you how you're going to make sure that people understand the rogue landlord checker and what work is happening to expand that across all of London's private renters and those landlords.
Well, can I congratulate her on being a mum, but also it's clear she's been using her mat leave to lobby the government for childcare provision, because they've announced while she's been away additional childcare provision, which I think she should declare interest in terms of the difference it'll make to her when Junior's 9 months old. Look, she's right to remind us of the three big challenges facing the 2.7 million Londoners who rent privately: the amount of rent they pay, the quality of accommodation, and security of tenure. And we've been lobbying on this issue for a number of years, and it's really good to see the government taking on board our issues. But she's right, there's no point having laws if nobody knows about them. Or if you've got, the vast majority of landlords are good landlords. It's worth putting that on the record. But a small minority may be taking advantage of tenants who are ignorant. A lot of tenants can check up their rights and know how to use the internet and stuff. Many don't. So it's really important for us to invest in giving tenants the information and landlords information, what they can and can't do, which will improve the quality of life of Londoners, whether you're a landlord or a tenant. And again, I don't see this as a hostile act in terms of tenants versus landlords. If everyone knows the rules of the game, they can abide by the rules of the game. There's nothing unreasonable in landlords paying off their mortgage, making a bit of profit, and tenants having a good quality home, having security of tenure, having good quality accommodation, and knowing how much the rent's going to be in 12 months' time, rather than having to worry about 3 increases in the space of 12 months.
Thank you for that, Mayor Khan. I mean, I was really proud. I've stood down from Hackney Council, and I was really proud of the work that I did alongside the officers there as a private rented sector advisor to the Mayor at the time, obviously not the current Mayor, though I wish her well, to bring in licensing across the borough. And obviously that process is particularly onerous. The Labour government has made some changes and loosened some of the rules around the hoops that local authorities need to jump through. But as you said rightly, it's really important that we work with landlords and support good landlords. So how are you going to make sure that landlords are making their tenants aware of their of their rights and their protections, and just really amplifying that, because it's also really important that tenants understand their rights and are able to feel empowered to enforce them against their landlords if they feel like they need to?
I mean, almost as bad as not knowing your rights is being told the wrong rights. And so I was worried that some of our tools may be out of date. So we've made sure that the City Hall team, who work incredibly hard, have updated the private renting tools and checkers to continue to support boroughs and renters with the changes. But I've also checked they've updated the rogue landlord and agent checker, because there are now new offences in the new legislation, so boroughs can upload cases and complete them as well. And I've also checked, should be reassured to know, that we've updated the tools and checkers pages on various parts of the website as well. We're going to carry on working with boroughs, and we've got, as you know, a private rented sector partnerships group with boroughs and so forth, which will be a good medium. We've got a huge advantage in London because of the work we've done. Compared to other parts of the country, we've already got the relationships and the structures in place, which means we can hit the ground running. And we'll also be funding groups around the city, renters groups and others, who are at the coalface to make sure they, not just themselves know the rights, but they can pass on to various communities the rights, those underserved communities who we find difficult to reach directly.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think we'll have a break for 10 minutes. So back here at 11:51. Is that right? Thank you. Welcome back, Assembly. We were delayed a little because, basically, Assembly member Mo Emma's daughter held up the wheels of government, of London government, for quite a while. But we're now back on course. The next question is in the name of Assembly member McCartney, and it concerns rough sleeping in London.
Thank you for the question. I'm committed to ending rough sleeping by 2030 because I refuse to accept that sleeping rough is inevitable. And I'm proud that since I became mayor in 2016, City Hall has helped more than 20,000 people off London's streets. I'm also pleased that last quarter we witnessed a significant reduction in the number of people seen sleeping rough by 18% compared to the previous quarter and 11% compared to the same quarter a year earlier. That's nearly 500 fewer people seen sleeping rough compared to the same quarter of the previous year, which is numerically the biggest quarterly fall in a year unaffected by COVID by more than 12 years. This suggests that our new approach to joint work, along with the interventions we trialled last winter, are starting to bear further fruit. These included mobile hubs that offer accommodation and support in places with most rough sleepers, and new services to help those with a history of sleeping rough into long-term accommodation. These measures are part of the new approach through the Rough Sleeping Plan of Action, which I published a year ago. This involves partnership between the GLA, boroughs, government and charities. It involves preventing people ending up on the streets so specialist services can focus on those with the most complex needs. And it involves making sure there are long-term homes and support to get these people off the streets. On top of these, we've set up the London Ending Homelessness Accelerator Programme, a partnership with £3.5 million to fund innovative projects, including some of those we piloted last winter. We've secured additional funding for the next 3 years as part of the integrated settlement, and I've just allocated an extra £8 million to my rough sleeping budget. There's a great deal still to do, but we're in a good place to do it. By 2028, I want services to move away from verifying that someone's sleeping rough before supporting them to assessing their needs, which is a key shift towards focusing on prevention. That will require a lot of work, but it's vital work, and I'll leave no stone unturned in my fight to end rough sleeping by 2030.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And this is a very ambitious challenge, but I'm glad it's one you've taken up because it does affect the most vulnerable Londoners. I think we can see that we've got a government that supports this challenge, is putting extra money into it. You've said, has put extra money into this challenge too, but we really need to build on those partnerships that were developed through COVID with the third sector, but also local authorities. We also have new legislation, the Renters' Rights Act we've talked about today, where no-fault evictions have been banned. We also have your council home building programme coming to fruition. But what more support can you give, in particular to local authorities and third parties, to make sure that they are able to provide services, particularly around prevention, to stop people actually becoming rough sleepers in the first place?
Well, can I remember for a question and her raising this issue regularly with me privately and publicly. So look, councils are key, not by themselves, but they're key to our fight to end rough sleeping for good. And they've been great, cross-party over the last few years. There's clearly been a change in some councils on May the 7th, so we're looking to work closely with the new leadership in various councils in the same way we worked with previous leaderships in various councils. But having that partnership is really important. We can't do it by ourselves, the charities can't do it by themselves, the government can't do it by themselves, the councils can't do it by themselves as well. So we've set up a London Ending Homelessness Acceleration Programme that works with councils, as a partnership with councils, to see what projects worked last year we can take forward, what new projects there may be. I want the shift, and the councils agreed to be, towards prevention. It seems to me perverse that somebody's got to be sleeping rough for at least a night before they get support. Doesn't make sense. And so we're trying to work with them on that. Also, it's worth bearing in mind the challenge to have sub-regional delivery. So councils are great, but actually we could have 3 or 4 working together in different regions. The potential is huge, not just economies of scale, but it could mean we could use the integrated settlement in a sensible way. It'll be cheaper in the medium to long term because you're planning over 3 years rather than 2 years, but also doing it together, sub-regional makes sense as well. And the final thing is, look, if you speak to most rough sleepers, they don't think about wards or constituencies or boroughs, and so we shouldn't either. And the sub-regional approach, I think, could potentially be really exciting.
Thank you. Obviously, one of the big factors of homelessness that often leads to rough sleeping is people being unable to afford private rented sector housing. And I was really pleased when this Labour government came in that they ended the freeze on the local housing allowance and that it was reset, but it is still frozen. And we know with increased rents that that is not really sustainable and is an issue. Are you lobbying government to readjust this every year in line with rising rents? And if not, will you do so?
So this is a particular problem in London because the gap between the local housing allowance rents and the cap on total benefits gets bigger and bigger as a problem. That can lead to people, that delta leads to people being made homeless. And so the short answer is yes, we are going to carry on lobbying the government to try and reduce that gap, but also to make sure LHA rates keep up with the costs and constraints there are on people's budgets in terms of trying to pay their rent.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Can I very quickly go on the clock? When we were doing our rough sleeping investigation on the Housing Committee, we learned that Mr David Eastwood, MBE, who's the strategic lead for rough sleeping in Westminster, had not been contacted by the Oxford Street Development Corporation. Is that something you can make happen?
I'll take that up, Chair.
The next, where am I next?
Next question is withdrawn, so we go to Assemblymember Hirani.
Assemblymember Hirani on tackling racism. Thank you very much.
Can I thank the member for his question? Like many Londoners, I've been deeply concerned at the rise in division and hate we're witnessing across the country, and unfortunately, London is not immune to this hatred. I've been horrified by recent anti-Semitic attacks targeting the Jewish community in our city. At the same time, British Muslims are experiencing a terrifying rise in anti-Muslim hate. Racism isn't just directed at these two groups either. There is a wider pattern that demands a clear and united response. I know the Assembly member has done some excellent work to address discrimination against Hindus, which is not talked about as much as it should be. I'm clear that hate has no place in our city, and that's why I've invested more than £17 million to tackle hate crime, support victims, and strengthen community-led action. Through programmes like the Shared Endeavour Fund, we're backing projects that challenge intolerance and bring communities together. Our Loved and Wanted programme also sends a simple but powerful message that everyone belongs in London, and we're supporting community spaces and grassroots organisations to build understanding and facilitate better connections across our city. Structural racism also continues to shape people's lives, with black and minority ethnic Londoners more likely to experience poverty, poorer health outcomes and barriers to employment. I'm determined to go further to tackle these injustices at their root causes through improving access to skills, supporting the creation of better jobs, addressing health inequalities and making the city more accessible and affordable. Our financial hardship programmes are also supporting Londoners facing financial hardship right now. My income maximisation programme has already helped more than 160,000 people secure over £100 million in support, making a real difference to families across London.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I'm glad you alluded to the work around anti-Hindu hate crime, where in November 2023 I first raised this issue here at City Hall, and the poor recording of data and incidents not only in London but around the UK. Now, last Thursday I launched, alongside the International Centre for Sustainability, their new reporting tool for anti-Hindu hate crime. Can you ensure that the Met Police take seriously reports and issues highlighted in the reports that will generate from the new monitor, and so that the issues can be properly addressed when they arise?
Well, Chair, can I thank the member for bringing to my attention the October 2025 report on investigating perceptions of anti-Hindu hate and discrimination in the UK, and that highlighted that Hindu phobia in the UK remains under-recognised, inconsistently recorded, and often absent from policy discussions. That's why him launching with the International Centre for Sustainability this new reporting tool is incredibly important. What pleases me as well is the fact that this group has worked with the Community Security Trust, a good example of one minority community helping another minority community. I'm well aware residents who are Hindu in London feel targeted and unsafe in some public spaces, and there's previously been no formal mechanism, system, I beg your pardon, for reporting this, and the anti-Hindu hate monitor, which can be accessed online, I think is really important to gather more evidence. If you don't measure it, you can't see how bad the problem is. So I fully commend this initiative, and I'd encourage anyone who's a victim or witnesses hate crime against somebody who's perceived to be a Hindu to report it.
Thank you. And you alluded to the local elections as well that we've had this month. Now, we've seen a number of council candidates elected this month who have very concerning and in some cases clearly racist views. We have Saika Ali, a Green Party candidate who was elected in Lambeth. Similarly, closer to home, a Conservative candidate in Harrow, Will Jackson, who was also a GLA Conservative candidate at the last London elections, alongside the group opposite, was elected in Harrow and has been suspended from the party for social media posts where they were trolling British-born MPs, calling to abolish all foreign MPs and questioning the Britishness of former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. How important is it that political parties take swift action to suspended candidates when these issues arise?
The sort of views that the members referred to are sort of views that in the past were in the periphery, not mainstream views belonging to somebody who's a senior member of a political party. And so one or two things are happening is the political parties aren't properly vetting and checking candidates. And the good thing is, once they realise that somebody's got these pernicious views, actions taken, that's a good thing. Or secondly, they're well aware of these views and they still back the candidate. I'm hoping the parties he referred to, the Conservative Party and the Green Party, they will take action because they now know the views of these individuals. And I'm somebody who's incredibly proud. We've had a Prime Minister of Indian origin and Hindu faith. It really doesn't matter to me. He's a Conservative. It's a source of pride to me that he was in number 10 for the length he was. I remember the impact it had on me, him celebrating Diwali by lighting the candles outside Downing Street was so powerful. And so I think we should stand up to this as for me, it's a cross-party issue, decent people standing up to this. And I'm not sure what the individual cases are, actions taken against them.
Thank you. And in the wake of the Unite the Kingdom march in central London, we saw 43 arrests made with Met Police officers allegedly subjected to racist abuse. Does the Mayor agree that public figures and elected representatives, including Assembly members, should be careful about the language they use when describing such events and shouldn't be describing the atmosphere as incredible?
Look, I've been given a file from the police in relation to the individuals who were invited to speak at this event, but because their views are so dangerous and unconducive to public order and other reasons, the Home Secretary saw fit not to allow them to travel to this country. I think there were 11. Those are the sorts of people, the organisers, were invited to speak at this event. I've also seen some of the views espoused by people on the platform of this event. And I find it incredible that a mainstream politician would, in a positive way, call this sort of stuff incredible. That's not to take away from the fact that there are many decent people who may have been on the march. I'm not denigrating them. But we can't pretend that the organisers haven't got unsavoury views. Some of them aren't convicted of very serious offences. And some of the views said by those on the platform are not the views that the vast majority of people in London have.
The next question is in the name of Assembly Member Wilson. It concerns support for police officers.
Thank the member for his question. The people who work for the Met, both police officers and staff, are the most vital asset the Commissioner has. Policing can be a rewarding job for many officers as a vocation, but it can also be extremely challenging. Police officers must undertake complex and often dangerous tasks as they put themselves in the line of fire to keep us all safe. I want to take this opportunity to recognise and thank both police officers and staff for their invaluable service to Londoners. My role is not only to hold the Met Commissioner to account, but to support him. And I'm proud of the action taken since I became Mayor to support the Met. I backed legislation to increase the sentence for assaults on emergency workers. I've successfully lobbied government for extra funding and resources, invested in the Met in record sums through business rates, and made the difficult decision to raise the police and council tax precept by the maximum amount. This has enabled me to make a record-breaking £1.26 billion investment from City Hall to the Met Police Service in 2026-2027 alone, almost £100 million more than last year's budget and more than double the previous Mayor's final budget. This fund will ensure the Met can continue to make the improvements needed to bear down on crime, keep Londoners safe and protect frontline policing, enabling the Met to retain officers it would otherwise have lost. My investment in policing has also been vital to securing more protective equipment for officers, including body-worn video. And of course, it will also enable the Commissioner to continue the important work to reform the culture of the Met, which is so critical to the well-being of officers and staff. Ultimately, it's the Met Commissioner who's responsible for directly supporting his officers, and I know he's doing this through the development of a dedicated Met health and wellbeing strategy. This strategy is aligned to the College of Policing's National Wellbeing Framework and will cover leadership and culture, accountability and improved health services. These services will help protect and promote officer and staff mental health, as well as embedding wellbeing across all operational policies and processes.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that answer. I'd like to take this opportunity to put on record my strong thanks and support for officers, both in general, but also, obviously, the most recent high-profile case in Golders Green, where those two brave officers apprehended that terrorist suspect and did what needed to be done to bring him under control. And I think it's good that at least 4 out of the 5 parties represented here in this chamber were able to share that, so that's very helpful. But I understand in that case, as I believe happens in every similar case, there's been a mandatory referral to the IOPC. Can you guarantee that both you and the Met will give those officers every support they need to make sure that that process is quick, doesn't get in the way of their ability to do their job, and that they are fully supported and rewarded for their efforts?
Chair, I hope I've not got this wrong, but the police watchdog, the IBC, were referred this. They've looked into it all, and they said there's nothing for them to investigate more.
Excellent. Well, that is good news indeed. Thank you very much indeed for confirming that. I'd like to draw a comparison, however, though, with the case of Sergeant Martin Blake, who's a case that we've discussed at great length in this chamber before. And whilst I fully welcome your support for what's happening in Golders Green, you didn't give this similar unequivocal backing to Sergeant Blake. And indeed, whilst the extent of Chris Cabba's criminal background was not publicly known prior to the prosecution, presumably you would have been aware of that. And yet at the time, you certainly gave the impression of being more sympathetic to Chris Cabba than you were to Sergeant Blake. I wonder what is different in this case and why have we not got a consistent approach?
Well, I'm really happy to compare and contrast those two cases. I'm somebody who supported the Commissioner in terms of lobbying the government to change the regulations in relation to discipline and conduct, which happened as a consequence of our joint work lobbying the government. The previous government refused to make any changes. This government has in relation to armed response officers. He'll also be aware in relation to the different circumstances of what happened in Golders Green in terms of a lack of loss of life, thankfully, because of the great work of unarmed officers, and the loss of life in relation to the firearmed officer that he's referring to. The good news is there was a proper, thorough investigation in relation to that firearms officer, Martin Blake. He was exonerated, and it's really important that officers who are firearmed officers, often making split-second decisions, have the confidence that the rules and regulations have changed as a consequence of that case, but also that gives them more certainty and confidence going forward, which is really important. One of the challenges with the previous case that he refers to is that there were a number of things happening in parallel. The police watchdog investigation, which hadn't concluded for a number of years. This one, Golders Green, concluded in a number of days. But secondly, in addition to the police watchdog investigation, there was a coronial inquest, there was a criminal investigation, all of which had to be concluded, because none of us would ever want to prejudice the fair outcome of a case.
You're right to say that these officers make split-second decisions, life or death decisions, and it's not a position that I think any of us in this chamber would want to be having to take the responsibility for those situations. But you're also right to say they need confidence, and they need confidence that both the operational and the political leadership of the organisation that they're serving on behalf of Londoners has their back. That didn't seem to be the case on this case. I mean, the words that you were quoted, you talked about anger, pain and fear in the community, that it raised issues of wider lack of trust in the police. But we know the circumstances of that case. If you had that time again, if you could turn back the clock and go back to when this first happened, would you have taken a different approach? Would you have said different words? Would you have had a more consistent approach in line with that you're now taking?
Well, no. And the member's making a classic mistake of making comparisons with cases that are vastly different. So I'll put back to him. Does he support unequivocally the officers who shared photographs of Bieber and Nicole?
It's not Assembly members' question time. It's Mayor's question time. So I happily swap places with you, Mr. Mayor. We're talking about
because he's afraid to answer the question. Why is he afraid to answer the question? Because those cases are different. Does he support the police officer who murdered Sarah Everard? No. Why? Because they're separate cases. Does he support the officers uncovered by Operation Hutton? No. Why? Because they're separate cases. And so you can't compare what happened with Golders Green with other cases we can talk about over the last 10 years. What I will say, as I said in answer to my the first question, I've supported the police in terms of investment, but also in terms of lobbying the government to change the law to support the police, as is evidenced by the speed with which the police watchdog acted after Golders Green compared to other cases.
Thank you. I would note that in the way that the Chris Cabba and Martin Blake case was conducted, that resulted in a large number of officers handing in their firearms tickets, thankfully only temporarily. But what can we do to make sure that those officers, those brave officers who put their lives on the line day in, day out, feel loved and wanted?
They will know that we've not just talked the talk, we've walked the walk by changing the regulations that hadn't been changed by the previous government, working with the Home Secretary, working with the government. We've changed the process in terms of not just burden of proof, not just in terms of expedition, in terms of investigation, but also giving these armed officers the certainty and clarity they need. Evidence.
I'm afraid the Reform Group is now out of time, but I've given you a fair bit of time over. Assembly Member Ahmed, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mayor, with regard to the Chris Cabba and Martin Blake case, could you confirm that it is actually inappropriate for anyone to be commenting on an ongoing investigation, as there was and is still the case in Martin Blake?
Well, one of the things I was keen to explain is the importance of not inadvertently scuppering the potential of a fair trial. That's why it's really important. And the question was asked what I said in real time whilst investigations were live. And hopefully, members will understand the importance of us being careful in what we say, because some of these cases could lead to further court proceedings. None of us want to be responsible for a proceeding not being done fairly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next question is in the name of Assembly Member Mahfouz, and it concerns London's economy.
Can I thank the member for his question? London, like other UK regions, has had to contend with many challenges over the past 10 years, from Brexit to the COVID-19 pandemic to wars in Europe and the Middle East. There is no question that these events have had an impact on London's economy, as they have nationally and across the world. Yet in spite of all these major shocks, our economy has continued to display remarkable resilience. It's worth noting that London's share of the UK's total income has grown from about a sixth 10 years ago to nearly a quarter today. Our capital also continues to be more productive than any other UK region. Its workforce remains better educated, its population more economically active, and its labour market better at creating jobs for the rest of the country. London also continues to attract the most foreign direct investment globally and is internationally competitive in sectors that are vital for our future prosperity, such as finance and artificial intelligence. These are precisely the strengths we want to build on as we set out in the London Growth Plan. That said, London is not immune from the scarring effects of the challenges we faced. That's why I continue to push for a robust devolution settlement, working with the government for measures to protect those most in need in our society. I welcome the government's drive towards greater fiscal and regional devolution. The integrated settlement is a much-needed boost, but there is some way to go. Moving beyond the welcome passing of the English Devolution Act, the next reform is to devolve fiscal powers and allow regions to introduce an overnight accommodation levy is a major step in the right direction.
Thank you, Mayor. And first of all, congratulations on London being voted the best city for culture in the world by Time Out earlier this week. Also, some other great news on the economy in terms of the GDP growth, top in the G7. We've got the IMF have just upgraded growth prospects for this year. Inflation down again versus the double-digit figures that we had under the Tories. Of course, and now a new trade deal with Gulf states just announced as well. But as you've alluded to, there are major challenges for our economy, both in London and nationally and internationally, because of Trump's war in the Middle East, and obviously that has already forced prices up. a war that, of course, was supported by the Tories and Reform in this chamber and outside. But as we sit here today, there are young people sitting in halls across the country, sitting their exams, and they are wondering about their employment and job opportunities and prospects when they have finished those exams. What work and what commitment can you give to them in terms of making sure that they have the best opportunities possible in this great city to get their foot onto the career ladder?
I'm really keen to make sure that we provide opportunities for everyone to fulfil their potential, particularly young Londoners. I am worried about the impact youth unemployment in particular has on aspiration, life chances, not making the right start in terms of your potential 50, 60-year work career. So we're doing a huge amount to try and make sure with the private sector who do the heavy lifting, we have jobs that are linked with the skills of young people who are on the job market. And it's really important to match those two things up, the jobs that are available and the skills for young people to get those jobs. The three things we've got to worry about in London is youth unemployment, unemployment generally, and underemployment as well. Somebody's got higher skills than the job they are doing. So we're working with employers, working with the government in terms of skills boot camps, working to use our adult education budget to give young people the skills to be ready for these jobs that we're working with the private sector to create. Additionally, we're trying to attract more big employers to London to create more jobs. So over the course of the next month, we'll have South by Southwest returning to London from Austin. We'll have the biggest ever London Tech Week taking place in London, the biggest ever London Climate Action Week taking place towards the end of next month. These are important. Why? Because employers and investors come to London. They create more opportunities, I'm hoping, for the young people doing their exams in the halls he's talking about.
That's really positive to hear. And one of the other things that we've heard from government in the last couple of weeks, in particular, is about redefining and rebuilding our relationship with Europe. Now, in your last election, you committed to making sure that we reintroduced an Erasmus-style programme for young people to be able to travel and study abroad across Europe. How is that pledge coming along?
So I think what's really important is for this government to have done the right thing in resetting relations with the European Union. The hard Brexit that the Conservatives and the Assembly support is awful for jobs, wealth, prosperity, our reputation, economically, socially and culturally. So this government was right to reset relations with the EU. I support them in terms of a new Erasmus, but also the youth mobility scheme that Nick Thomas-Simons is negotiating with the EU on. It's only because we left the club, we have to negotiate with the club in relation to getting some of the benefits that this fantastic trade body community has. I'll just make this point. Yes, the government's done a great job getting trade deals with the USA, India, South Korea, the Gulf states. That's a fraction of the benefits of being a member of the European Union.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Thank you. We next go on to a question by Assembly Member Baker about English Devolution and Community Empowerment Act.
Thanks, and I thank the member for her question. We're working with the government on the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Act, which represents one of the biggest transfers of power away from government in years. This new legislation provides an opportunity for TfL to properly manage the further growth of rental e-bikes and e-scooters in London. These bikes are already supporting more Londoners to cycle, but the powers granted to London will maximise their benefits and ensure it does not negatively impact Londoners through robust regulation and consistent licensing. I've been calling for these powers since dockless bikes first arrived in the UK in 2017, and it's great that this government, unlike the previous one, have listened and have taken action. Further steps are still needed by the Department of Transport before TfL can begin licensing activity. The Secretary of State must first bring into force the on-street micromobility provisions of the Act, enabling her to confer on TfL the powers to licence and regulate the provision of micromobility vehicles in Greater London. We expect this to initially focus on dockless rental e-bikes with flexibility to include other shared micromobility vehicles under future legislation. At some point later in this year, we expect the government to consult on secondary legislation that will be made under the Act. TfL is working closely with the government to provide its insight into London operations and provide a full response to any consultation. In the meantime, TfL is carefully looking at how it will exercise its functions as a licensing authority once enabled to do so. While it'd be premature to go into the detail on this before second legislation is in place, my ambition is for TfL to use its new powers to support sustained cycling growth whilst driving up consistent and high standards for rental e-bike schemes across London, replacing the existing patchwork and borough-by-borough approach. This is a significant opportunity, and it's important that TfL takes the time to get its licensing scheme right.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. And it is, as I agree with you, it's really positive that TfL will be given these new powers following, as you say, calls from both yourself and from the Assembly. And I agree that dockless rental e-bikes are really convenient for many, but it's really positive to see that regulation. But I do have two specific questions. You've outlined some of the steps that we need to take. When do you think Londoners will be able to see difference on our streets? And also, will Transport for London, when they're responding to that consultation on secondary legislation, will TfL look at fleet caps and data sharing requirements so that we can ensure that there is not oversupply of dockless rental e-bikes and that they're complementing public transport and not competing?
Yeah, great questions as ever. So firstly, in relation to when, we're lobbying for expedition here. To be fair, getting the Act through Parliament was an achievement in itself. The problem is a lot of the powers we would get flow from the need for secondary legislation. The good news, this can be done through committee rather than the full floor of the House. No need for primary legislation. It can be secondary. Where our officials are speaking to DfT about what we'd like to see in the secondary legislation, as she'll be aware, once it's published, it's very difficult to amend it. So we're trying to get involved in influencing our experience in London in relation to this. If I was to be pushed, I'd say legislation published in draft or the consultation this year, so we're in May now, with responses in this year, with the Act having an impact on Londoners, I would hope early next year at the latest. Because just to give an example of why it's important, people want to invest in London in these e-dockless bikes, but more and more Londoners are getting frustrated by some of the inconvenience. I'll be generous in my words that they can cause. Yes, they're great, but they can cause an inconvenience. So the more powers we can make sure that good people are rewarded. I think she's right to allude to the importance of fleet caps. Why? We saw the proliferation when Uber came into London of private hire vehicles and the impact they had on the market. We still haven't got the ability to cap private hire vehicles. It's a challenge. So we do want to have controls over the numbers, but also without in any way jeopardising commercial sensitivities. I think it is important to share data. We can do it in a way that there's a black box and it's safeguarded, so you don't have your information shared with a rival. I can understand why companies would be nervous. You've got to be sharing data because we can then see where things are working well, where they're working less well, but also if there's, for example, an area where there seems to be bikes dumped on a regular basis, how do you take action? If it's the same company, how do you take action? So there's actually a reason why data sharing is really important.
Thanks very much. And I do have one quick follow-up, but I'm running out of time. But as you've alluded to, nuisance parking is a huge issue in some areas where we've all seen the pictures of swarms of e-bikes blocking roads and pavements, and that's not acceptable. And it's the councils, the local councils, that are having to deal with this on a day-to-day basis. So how will you ensure that when we do consult on it, that councils have a proper role, as well as alongside TfL, in managing the impact and making sure it's their effective mode of transport?
She's spot on. There are sometimes big events that the cycle hire companies know are taking place. People are riding not unreasonably to these places and their bikes are dumped there, and the council's picking up the bill. I think there's going to be a mechanism where we can support councils taking action against these companies. There could be incentive, there could be the stick if need be in terms of fines and stuff. So there are things we can do and other cities are doing. That's not to take away from the great work some e-bike companies do and how useful they are. But you're spot on. If we get this right at an early stage, everyone should be happy.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. To you, Chair.
English devolution and still no English Parliament. Anyway, never mind. Let's move on to the next question in the name of Assembly Member Cooper about London City Airport expansion, please.
I thank the Chair for, thank the member, beg pardon, for her question. I have a long-standing position on airport expansion in London linked to the negative impact on air quality, on noise, and London's ability to reach net zero by 2030. And I've been clear that aviation must take responsibility for addressing its environmental impacts on local communities. In 2024, I welcomed the government's rejection of the key element of London City Airport's proposal, which would have seen flights running for 6 hours on a Saturday afternoon for the first time. This would have substantially eroded its 24-hour weekend curfew, which has been in place since the airport first opened 39 years ago. However, the airport is now taking forward an airspace change process which would allow large aircraft to use the airport. The airspace change process is overseen by the Civil Aviation Authority, and unlike with a planning application, the focus is on technical aspects such as whether the change is operable. I'm of course concerned about the environmental impacts, including those experienced directly by local communities. I've been clear that the environmental impacts need to be properly assessed and addressed, and that's why my officers have made formal representations to the airport in this regard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and it's good to hear that you've made representations to the airport in respect of some robust and independent assessments. I think the problem, and having lived in Battersea under the flight paths towards Heathrow and Tooting for very many years, I'm very well aware on a personal level of the impact of both the noise but also when it's taking place. So can you just be crystal clear that whatever kind of planes are used in and out of the airport, that you support the weekend respite and also the limited hours both at Heathrow and at City Airport so that people can get a proper night's sleep?
Yeah, the short answer is I do, but can I just, people who aren't near a fly path or near an airport may not understand the impact it has on quality of life, the noise. I mean, it really is debilitating. And this respite is really important for residents in and around City Airport. They are pro-growth, they are pro-business, they are pro-jobs. They just want a decent quality of life. Sleeping at night time, and in the case of City Airport, having respite over the course of the weekend. And so I can confirm that is still my view.
Well, that's absolutely great to hear that, Mr. Mayor, because I think one of the impacts of noise spreading into many hours can be seen by hospital admissions. There's been recent studies showing increased people going in for respiratory problems and cardiovascular because they're not getting that proper rest. But just to turn to the issue of growth and airports, obviously there's now development going on in terms of electric planes, and obviously given the location of City Airport and a lot of the flights coming in and out of it are quite short haul. We want to get rid of that noise. We want to get rid of those ultra-fine particles associated with air pollution from airports, which actually it's worse than roads. Would you agree with me that if there are planes that are suitable, that are electric to come in and out of the airport, that that's something that we as the Assembly and as the Mayor of London, we would be encouraging airports to start to look at very positively?
Look, I think she's right to remind us of the innovation. I mean, if we were speaking 10 years ago and talked about electric planes, we'd sort of laugh and think that's ridiculous, and I'm not sure I'll take one. Technology is moving so fast, battery capacity is moving so fast, that's now a serious conversation, particularly when you bear in mind the raison d'etre of City was short-haul flights. The speed at which you can be on the seat of the plane and be out by the last nation is remarkable, even now, and vice versa. And she's right, if airline companies are considering, because they've got to monetize this and make it profitable, were to have a scheme that's viable and works well, City's the obvious candidate. And City Airport is a well-run airport. The business community does like City, but they should respect the concerns that we have, but also use the opportunity to innovate.
It's about balance, Mr. Mayor, isn't it? Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next question concerns the 2026 local elections, and it's in the name of Assembly Member Roberts.
Can I say to the member, I hope he'll allow me to congratulate him on the success in Richmond. Well, I've got to give it to him with the Tories and Greens losing seats in Richmond. His party have enjoyed results that would make Kim Jong-un jealous, a one-party state. When I was first elected in 2016, I promised to be a mayor for all Londoners. In the decade since, I've dedicated every day to fulfilling the promise by building a fairer, greener, safer and more prosperous London for everyone. Universal free school meals haven't just saved kids in Greenwich or Ealing from the gnawing ache of hunger in the classroom. They've helped children in Richmond and Bromley too. The ULEZ has helped us to tackle toxic air pollution in every part of London, from Hounslow and Hampstead and Fulham to Hillingdon and Richmond. And projects like the Elizabeth Line and the Superloop have connected communities across the capital, boosting job creation and house building across London. A good start in life, clean air, world-class public transport, these aren't privileges that can be left to a postcode lottery. These are rights which belong to every Londoner, no matter where they live or who happens to run their council. That's why I'm as determined as ever to build a better future for every borough in our great city, and that includes councils controlled by the Liberal Democrats, Conservatives, Greens, Reform, Labour, Independents, and those under no overall control. I'll keep expanding our public transport network, building more affordable homes, supporting Londoners with the cost of living, and work with others to help create more decent, well-paid jobs. I'll work to clean up our rivers and waterways, pedestrianise Oxford Street, and bring back good youth clubs in every borough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, I'm just short on time. Mr. Mayor, given your response to Assembly Member Best and hearing from some members of the Assembly from the Labour group, many might be forgiven for thinking that last Thursday, 2 weeks Thursday, didn't happen. That Labour didn't lose control of, or no over control, Lewisham, Wandsworth, Lambeth, Southwark, Enfields, Haringey, Waltham Forest, Barnet, Brent, Westminster. As a long-term leader myself, 8 years compared with your 10, I recognise that voters sometimes reward humility over hubris. Do you think, therefore, it's right to recognise that there is part of the problem lies here in City Hall about the issues which were faced 2 weeks last Thursday?
Which issues does it refer to?
Oh, you lost seats across London. You lost nearly half of your councils. Well, actually, over half of your councils. There was a big backlash against Labour. And all we would like to do is to find out whether you personally think that you have any responsibility,
I understand.
Or whether the Assembly.
Sure.
You've got 2 years to fix this.
Sure. Well, I understand there's temptation to blame the Mayor of London for the results in Scotland.
No.
Wales,
I'm talking about
the north of England.
These people will all lose their jobs in 2 years' time.
I understand.
If this continues.
I understand. But I'm quite clear in relation to my conclusions from the results in May the 7th. And what we've seen is a number of things. Firstly, as I've said in answer to the previous question, the public's views across the country of the performance of the government, the impact of the fragmentation of party politics. Let's be frank, we've recognised the results are bad for Labour. The Conservatives haven't yet. That their share of the vote went down in London, right? And I recognise, actually, when you look at some other parties in terms of percentage of seats won versus candidates stood, it's quite low, 5%.
I'm afraid, Mr. Mayor, the Lib Dem group is now.
I did my best, Mr.
You did
Chair.
try very hard, and I gave you a few more seconds.
Thank you.
Now for is there such a thing as a maiden question? Well, there is a maiden. There is now from Assembly Member Hamdash, and it concerns MTS and Palantir.
Well, can I congratulate and welcome the new member to his seat. The Procurement Act 2023 and the framework of public procurement legislation prevents us from picking and choosing the suppliers we want to award to, and also limits the grounds on which suppliers can be excluded. Procurement activity has to happen within the bounds of that legislation. There is an extensive process that surrounds procurements made by the Met Police Service to ensure we comply with legislation and have appropriate input and oversight over investments above the value of £500,000. This is vital given the powers, information and funding we entrust to the Met on our behalf. Londoners expect that their police service is working hard to improve its service, to innovate and to keep pace with criminal threats. They expect the Met is careful in spending public money, making sure they get the maximum value and impact. Value for money is vital. The governance is designed to ensure that procurement processes consider factors like these as appropriate, so that Londoners can feel reassured that their interests are being independently upheld. It's also important so that companies who wish to provide goods and services to the Met can have confidence in the robustness and integrity of our processes. The Met has been in talks with Palantir UK in relation to a contract to improve criminal investigations and support the reforms to improve culture and standards. They've recently asked the Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime to formally approve that procurement. In the course of considering this request, a number of serious concerns have been identified. The Met did not present their procurement strategy to the Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime for approval, as required under MOPAC's scheme of delegation. Instead, the Met Police Service procurement process proceeded to the point of requesting MOPAC approval for contract award. The Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime has therefore made the decision not to approve the Met proceeding with the contract award to Palantir UK, This is in line with our policies and processes. The safety of Londoners will always be my first priority as Mayor. I have backed our police, including with record funding from City Hall, to protect the front line, reform the police and improve services for the public. Technology offers opportunity to supercharge these improvements and release vital savings to protect the front line. I welcome the Met's ambition in this regard.
Great. Thank you for your warm welcome to London Assembly, and I look forward to working constructively and collaboratively. In that spirit, I want to thank yourself and the Deputy Mayor for the step that you've taken on Palantir. Lots of Londoners have raised the concerns with me about the ethics of Palantir, whether that's their manifesto that talked about certain cultures being regressive or their complicity with human rights concerns. So I really, really welcome this step. What I want to ask you, though, is whether or not you see yourself having a greater leadership role when it comes to Palantir, whether that's rejecting future contracts or encouraging other public sector bodies to not work with Palantir. Palantir have been marching out contracts across the NHS in London, which many patients and residents have raised concerns with, and Shabana Mahmood has embraced the use of tech like this. Do you think you have a role to reject future contracts with Palantir and encourage others to do the same?
Well, can I thank the Member for raising his supplementary question? One of the things I've got to do as the Mayor responsible for a lot of taxpayers' money is to act within the law. Because if I act ultra-virus outside the law and a private contractor brings a case, not only are we having to pay compensation to the relevant private contractor, he's mentioned one, but also a huge amount of legal fees as well. And the tramlines, the guardrails under which I operate is going to be the law. Of course, he'll be well aware of my views in relation to certain individuals and certain people that run companies or found companies. But the bodies that I'm responsible for have got to act within the law, and it's really important to get the process right. Now, I know from past experience, when it's come to one of the bodies that I'm chair of awarding a contract or not awarding a contract, there's often a court case. So I'm deliberately very careful in what I say today in case that gives the impression that our grounds aren't within the lawful grounds that are allowed under the Procurement Act 2023.
Just one more question from me. In my questioning the Deputy Commissioner yesterday, it seemed very clear that Palantir had offered a discount. Now, that meant that the contract came just under the 500 threshold that would have involved your initial involvement. I wonder whether that threshold needs to be reviewed and whether or not the true value of a contract should be declared rather than the discounted account, because it does look like there is potential for evading scrutiny, and Palantir have a long track record of offering contracts for free or discounted rates to evade purposes, and it's something that the National Audit Office have highlighted as a concern when it came to their involvement in the contract for Homes for Ukraine.
Can I talk in general terms for obvious reasons that I hopefully understand? So I think there are two issues that he raises that are really important. One is the threshold before a decision comes to a politician for sign-off. And I think generally speaking, when there's a public body that's got a £4 billion expenditure per year, 500,000 is, before it comes to us, is probably the right limit, but I can go away and just check that is the case. The second issue is the general one, which is a really important one that I feel quite passionately about. I think if we're not careful, in general terms, what you're allowing is these private companies to almost have like a loss leader. And so they give you a good deal or something for nothing for a short period of time. You can become reliant upon it, or you've got rid of the staff that did that job before, or staff that could be trained up. And then when it comes to procurement, A, there's only one company that can win the contract, but B, you've completely hollowed out the expertise to do that work in-house. And so those are my general concerns. I can't comment on the individual case for obvious reasons and stuff, but he's right to raise that. Because when money is tight, it's a temptation. And let's be frank, and nothing against profit, there's got to be a reason why private companies bid for these contracts. It's not for the love, although I'm sure some of them do love public service. And so I believe if we can do it, well, fine. If we can't do it well and we've got to procure, let's make it a level playing field.
Thank you. Assembly Member Hall.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I wasn't going to come in on this, but it's actually important. You have quite rightfully told the Commissioner to sort things out in the Metropolitan Police. We do not want things going wrong as they have gone wrong in the past. Now, this company has actually found out about the 98 officers are being assessed for misconduct, 500 received prevention notices, are being flagged for abusing IT duty rostering. A further 42 senior leaders are being assessed for non-compliance with the MES's hybrid working. I mean, this particular company has found out of lots of issues with police officers. Now, that is going to be very hard for the Metropolitan Police to cope with, that there are so many issues within the police. But you and I would agree on this. We must get these officers out of the Metropolitan Police Service. And they have already identified quite a few that needs to be dealt with. Now, however unpleasant that is, that can only help with keeping Londoners safe. Therefore, I'm concerned that some people will not want this particular company for certain reasons. I would say if we can find a company that can root out things that are going wrong with the Metropolitan Police Service, then jolly good to them. And I would hope that actually you'd put that and the safety of Londoners before other issues, which is why people don't want that particular company.
Chair, I agree with most of what the member has said, and I'm really pleased to see her welcome police reform, and I also I'm really pleased to see her welcome getting rid of the culture which allows bad officers to thrive. She's also right. Where technology can be used to aid the police, we should do so. For reasons I hope she'll understand, I just can't talk about the individual.
Sorry,
No,
I do want to absolutely support rooting these officers out once and for all. It'll help the Commissioner, and by God, it'll make every single one of us safer. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Just say it also saves us money if we do it right.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Thank you. The next question concerns OPDC infrastructure readiness and deliverability, and it's in the name of Assembly Member Small Edwards.
Thank you for your question. Old Oaken Park Royal is London's biggest growth opportunity, the capital's largest brownfield site, and one of the UK's most successful industrial areas. It is soon to become home to a major new high-speed interchange linking High Speed 2, the Elizabeth Line, the Great Western Main Line and the Heathrow Express. OPDC's mission is to turn the catalytic impact of this major transport investment into delivery. OPDC's local plan sets out the transport, green and social infrastructure needed to support the delivery of nearly 20,000 homes and unlock 36,000 jobs. Through Section 106 contributions and Community Infrastructure Levy receipts, OPDC has already secured £129 million to support investment and new infrastructure, ensuring new development funds the services that Londoners rely on. I'm also investing in the infrastructure of the future. OPDC is delivering a pioneering heat network that will use waste heat from local data centres to warm thousands of homes and businesses, a major step towards creating a net zero district. OPDC is also in dialogue with TfL and the utility companies to ensure the new district is connected to great transport links, power and utilities when needed. I'm confident that OPDC has a credible plan for securing the infrastructure capacity needed to drive forward new housing and jobs. With land ownership now unified between public landowners and development partners coming forward, OPDC stands ready to create an exemplar mixed-use district which will provide opportunities for those who live, work in and invest in this part of West London.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon. Given the recent delays that were announced by the government around HS2, what assurances can you provide that the housing delivery and then the Elizabeth Line services at Old Oak Common will still be delivered in a timely fashion?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. So the plans that OPDC have are short, medium and long term. And the good news is the short to medium plans in terms of jobs, in terms of infrastructure separate from High Speed 2 and in terms of homes are not contingent on HS2 happening at a sooner date. HS2 starting in 2035 still allows the huge development of this site.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just more broadly, I mean, as the country that invented the railway, do you sometimes despair at our ability to build these large-scale infrastructure projects? I mean, it's now forecast that HS2 will cost more than the Artemis missions to the moon.
So if you go back to the Second World War, we've been pretty slow, and it's been pretty costly doing infrastructure generally across our country. There are some exceptions to this. When you speak to colleagues on the continent, they appear to do things quicker and cheaper. One of the things we've got to do is to learn the lessons from mistakes made in the past, learn the lessons from major infrastructure that's been over budget and been delayed, but also make sure when there are elections and there's a change of government, that doesn't lead to pause or people not proceeding or downscaling. And one of the lessons we can learn from the continent is even if there's a change of party, the project carries on. But also the experience they have continues to the next project. We have ad hoc experience that's not taken forward. One thing that should give us confidence, though, with High Speed 2 now, is the team now involved with High Speed 2 are the same team that rescued Crossrail when it was behind budget and delayed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Another thing they do on the continent is give their mayors land value capture powers. That's something that I hope you'll be receiving sometime soon. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Can I very quickly ask the Assembly to agree to suspend Standing Order 2.9 in order to allow the remaining business on the agenda to be completed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Assembly Member Cooper wanted to come in.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm really not sure why this needs to be raised, because you would have thought that Assemblymember Polanski would have wanted to explain to us why he feels he can stay in this meeting and vote on budgets throughout the year. And I would call on him to make some comments now as to why he thinks it's suitable for a London Assembly member who pays no council tax to involve himself in the business of this Assembly.
Assembly Member Cooper, that's really not in order. This is not Assembly members' question time of other Assembly members. There are other ways.
It's not a question. I thought he might
issue.
want to make a statement. They've got 1 minute 20 left on their clock.
But
I'm not really, interested in clips, Alex, but you might know quite a lot about them.
No. Children, your break comes soon, so just calm down a little. Can we move on to the next question, which is in the name of Assembly Member Russell, concerning vehicle weight and size, and Vision Zero? And Mayor, if you could be quite brief with your response, as the Assembly Member doesn't have a lot of time left on the clock.
I want to thank Assembly Member Russell for her ongoing advocacy on Vision Zero. She'll be aware that I've asked TfL to look into a detailed analysis of the challenges posed by oversized vehicles, including the largest SUVs, and their wider impacts on London's roads.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be very interested to hear what comes back from that analysis, presuming you're still working on that.
So TfL hopes to come back this year. The key areas of concern clearly are safety, congestion, curbside demand and mode shift, and it could include weight and size.
Thank you very much. Now, there is a big, long group of air quality and road harm reduction campaigners who wrote to you about the dangers posed by SUV cars. They actually requested a meeting with you, and I just wonder if you could look into setting up that meeting with them, because I think they've got a lot of issues that they want to raise with you.
More than happy, Chair, to take that away as ever.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Assembly Member Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have you looked yet at setting out a timetable for getting rid of your SUV so that you can lead by example?
Can I thank the member for a question and her concern for my well-being? I've now asked the Met Police to review their use of the largest SUVs and explore alternative vehicles, including those that I use.
What do you use that isn't a large SUV?
I'm going to share with the member offline the various vehicles that are used in
No,
terms of
what
my
do you
protection.
use apart from a large? You just said the vehicle I use. What do you use apart from a large SUV?
It's not a large SUV.
What, a big old Range Rover?
It's not a large SUV. It's not a Range Rover either. I'm sorry to disappoint the member. She didn't get her clip.
I'll be interested. Well, a lot of people have got enough clips of you going around in your large SUV Range Rover. So would you like to tell us what it is?
I'm afraid City Hall Conservatives is now out of time. The next question.
12 seconds for the Greens, though.
The next question is going. Assemblymember Lord Duval has had to go on Assembly business, to leave on Assembly business. I should emphasise that. And so the question will be asked by Assemblymember Desai, and it concerns drop-in mobile phone thefts.
Can I thank you for the question? I know personal theft and robbery are some of the crimes Londoners are most concerned about. That's why, with the support of the Commissioner, I've made tackling this a priority, and I'm pleased to see our collective efforts bearing fruit. With the latest Met data now showing there were 13,000 fewer phone thefts in London over the previous year. Through Operation Reckoning, the Met's flagship operation that identifies the key locations and perpetrators of these thefts and robberies, the police have delivered intensive action that is making locations safer and leading to the arrest and disruption of more offenders. Op Reckoning has also seen the benefits of record City Hall investment with the use of new drones and Suron bikes, enabling the Met to take the fight directly to those stealing phones. Through our record funding, which has doubled the number of offices in the West End where many thefts and robberies take place, I'm pleased there's been a 25% reduction in theft in these hotspots. In March, I also announced an additional £4.5 million funding to tackle mobile phone theft, which will provide additional resource to the Met and wider partners to continue bearing down on this issue, including establishing a new command cell, which will coordinate intelligence and respond to phone theft, robbery and other crimes. It's important to make clear this issue is not unique to London and criminal networks operating internationally. That's why the Commissioner and I will continue to work with the government, the mobile phone industry and international law enforcement partners to crack down on mobile phone theft and robbery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that answer. So, Mr. Mayor, Operation Reckoning was successful in part because of the targeting of international criminal networks and work at Heathrow Airport. How important is the joint enforcement work in tackling this issue?
Can I thank him for raising this issue? Look, what's quite clear is there are organised criminal groups involved on an industrial scale in terms of mobile phone thefts, not just in the UK, but across the globe. So the Met Police Service is working closely with the NCA, with ports and airports, with colleagues across the country to try and get a grip on this. And to give an example, some of these phones are, thousands have been transported from airports and ports in the UK, ended up in China, Algeria, and other parts of the world. That's why it needs a whole systems approach.
Couldn't agree more. I think what you just said about joint enforcement work can also apply in tackling other crimes as well. Mr. Mayor, you and the police have made reducing phone theft a priority. How have the tech companies responded to you and the Met's calls to consider action to reduce the profitability of reselling stolen phones or phone parts?
So look, I think the police and partners are doing a very good job in terms of enforcement. I've mentioned the additional funding for the drones and the Suron bikes and so forth, town centre teams. You've seen the figures speak for themselves, 13,000 fewer phones stolen over the course of the last 12 months. So enforcement is a key part of the work that's going to be done, but prevention is also really important. It can't be right that these phones can be reset, reused and resold. And just like manufacturers in other worlds, car stereos, the TomToms, cash being transported to cash machines, have worked to design out this crime by making it almost not worth your while. Similarly, we want the mobile phone companies, the manufacturers, to do the same. Why isn't there a kill switch so a second-hand phone can't be used? Why can you deny access to the cloud or to Play so people can't download apps? Why can't you have in a place that's obvious on your phone a unique number so people can see whether the phone is stolen? So these are simple things we think that can happen, and the Commissioner's been over the last few months in Silicon Valley and the East Coast to lobby these companies to do more.
I think he set a deadline of June the 1st for manufacturers to come forward with concrete commitments.
Yeah, so the good news is that the companies are talking now. They're receptive. To be fair to the companies, the Met Police organised an international conference. There were colleagues from across the globe there, including from the companies as well. So we want to engage. This is not the Commissioner or I wanting to just have a stick. It's trying to engage with them. We think it's in their interests to do more. And when the Commissioner shares with them some examples of what happens when people try and steal phones, the damage caused, hopefully that will persuade them to do much more.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. There being no other interventions, that's the last question. Mr. Mayor, you're free to go. Can I ask the Assembly to agree the motion which is set out in the agenda, on the agenda in my name, which is that the Assembly notes the answers to the questions asked? Can I ask the Assembly to note the recent action taken by the former Chair of the London Assembly in consultation with the former Chair of the GLA Oversight Committee and party group leaders, namely to agree a letter to the Mayor of London on the resident doctors' strike as attached at Appendix 1 to the report.
Noted.
Thank you. Can I also ask the Assembly to note the response from the Mayor to the London Assembly's letter on the resident doctors' strike as attached at Appendix 2? The next scheduled meeting of the London Assembly will be the plenary meeting, which will take place at 10 a.m. on the Thursday, the 4th of June, in the Chamber at City Hall. There is no other urgent business requiring consideration, so I'll bring this meeting to a close.